Which selections will be the biggest hits in the 1988 NFL Draft? Will there be anyone like the Juice in the late 60s? This #1 pick became the #1 man to reach the 2,000-yard plateau. O.J. Simpson dashed through the ice and snow for the Bills, darted past defenders, and had everybody in Buffalo dancing in the streets. Sometimes greatness comes from schools off the beaten path. And the Bears, by discovering Jackson State and a running back named Walter Payton, truly were blessed. There was nobody better than Sweetness when it came time to dance to the music. Can the hits come in the 12th round? No question. The Raiders found linebacker Rod Martin there, and long before he was a Super Bowl hero, it was clear that he should have been taken higher. Maybe the choice will be a real hard rocker like Lawrence Taylor of the Giants, one of only 2 defensive players to be named MVP for a season. LT is more than tough enough. Atlanta is hoping fellow linebacker Aundray Bruce is tough enough. We know he's the top choice, but who will follow on the 1988 hit parade? We're about to find out as the NFL Draft is underway. You are looking live at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York City, where hopefully we will be live for the next 7 hours. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, and welcome to the 53rd National Football League. They'll call it the selection meeting. We call it the draft. The crowd is ready. We're ready here at ESPN. It's the first time the draft has been on Sunday, and today it goes, for the first time in 5 years, I should say 6 years, the draft goes back to a 2-day affair. They probably will go 4 or 5 rounds today. No round can start after 9 o'clock, but we'll be on with you till 7 o'clock Eastern time, and then they'll have the rest of the selections tomorrow. Now, as we get set, it should be a draft that will see many running backs, some outstanding wide receivers, and as we'll talk a little bit later on with our panel of experts, we could be seeing half of the first round consists of running backs and wide receivers, which should be interesting to you folks who follow college football because you've heard the names of these players for 3 or 4 years. The Lorenzo Whites, the Thurman Thomases, you know about these guys. The Tim Browns, the Michael Irvins, and so it will be not a quarterback draft, but a draft of many skill players. But at the top of the list, we're going to go defense. We already know about the first draft pick. He's Aundray Bruce, linebacker from Auburn. He was selected by the Atlanta Falcons and already signed, sealed, delivered. He's yours. The second pick, well, as you know, earlier in the week, the Kansas City Chiefs made a deal with Detroit. They swapped positions. The Chiefs went from 3 to 2, and Detroit made out like a bandit because they only dropped 1 position to 3 overall, and they come up with Kansas City's second-round pick. But the Chiefs wanted to take the player that they've been eyeing, and we anticipate that's Neil Smith. But we now anticipate the commissioner.
NFL selection meeting is now in session. First selection, the first round, Atlanta Falcons.
Pause for dramatic effect.
Atlanta selects Aundray Bruce, linebacker, Auburn.
And what a surprise, right? You never saw the Falcons even use the phone. How did they do that? Aundray Bruce, he's a man at 6'5", 6'6", can fly like the wind at outside linebacker, weighs 235 pounds. Speed, perhaps, of a defensive back. Very strong player. The young man from Montgomery, Alabama, had 8 sacks this last year as a senior, 3 interceptions, 1 which he returned for a touchdown. He is a guy that they hope can be an impact player along the lines of Lawrence Taylor. The way it goes these days when most of the teams play a 3-4 defense, the big sacks come from the outside linebackers, and that is what Atlanta would hope Aundray Bruce can bring them for about the next 10 years. He also can run, as you can see, returning the INT for a touchdown. And so the Atlanta Falcons have picked a guy that we have rated on the top of our board, and they had rated on the top of theirs. You add it up, we rate 4 different categories depending on the player, and you'll be getting familiar with these as the day goes on. The top possible grade will be a 20, and it will be 19-2 for Aundray Bruce. And so now as we move to my immediate left, Tom Jackson, and to my far left, Paul Zimmerman, our own good doctor, Dr. Z. Can Aundray Bruce be an impact player, Paul?
Well,
I tell you what, we'll answer that question shortly. Here's the commissioner.
Kansas City selects on the first round Neil Smith, defensive end, Nebraska.
All right, so Neil Smith, as expected, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what they made the deal for. Now let's go back first to Aundray Bruce. Can he be an intimidator?
I don't see him as a Lawrence Taylor or Cornelius Bennett. Those guys, when you saw them in college, the motor was going all the time. This guy takes one play off every now and then. He doesn't have the consistency. Of course, I'm the only one that has questions about him. Everybody else loves him.
Mr. Outside Linebacker, what do you think of Bruce?
Well, I think that inconsistency that Z alludes to, taking a play off every now and then, I think that can be conditioned. I think when you get to the pro level and you're making the $1 million salary plus, I think that he will tend to get consistent. Camp will do that for him. What I would worry about is a guy like this going to a team that he's not gonna make the Atlanta Falcons a good football team. And so I think what he's got to do is guard against getting lackadaisical over those first couple of years when he's going to have to struggle with a team that's going to struggle.
Well, this is the first draft for Ken Herrock, who now calls the shots as far as player personnel goes down with the Atlanta Falcons. And last year, what were some of the many problems with the Atlanta Falcons? Yeah, they had the worst record in football. 17 quarterback sacks last season. You should have that in a month if you're a good NFL team. And so now we have Aundray Bruce going to the Falcons. Falcons need a player just about everywhere, and they feel that they might as well start with Bruce. Look for Atlanta to try and make a deal to get up in the last third or maybe the last half of this opening round. They certainly would like one of those top 5 receivers. They'll take number 5 if they can get up to maybe about 16 or 17. Let's move on to Neil Smith, fellas, because here's a guy that comes from Nebraska, Zim, that can play really all 4 positions on the line, although the Chiefs probably look at him outside, right?
Well, I talked to the Chiefs about him. He's a good sacker. He's a slender guy, runs a 4.58. And I could see him as an open side pass rusher, but they're looking to replace Art Still, who plays the power side, the left side. And I said, can he play, is he sturdy enough to play there? And they said, oh, yeah, we think he can, put on a little weight and fill in. So he's the answer to what they want.
So Neil Smith, Tommy, goes a division that you know full well, the AFC West. The Chiefs did have some great players there in Still and Bell, but they're not what they once were. Neil Smith, the man has a huge wingspan.
I met him last night for the first time, and it made me know why I retired from football.
He 65 tackles last year, 7.5 sacks for Nebraska. And remember, not everybody in the Big 8 spends their life passing all the time. They list him at 6'4", 257. Was a defensive tackle there, but as we say, he can play anywhere along the line. Probably will be used on the outside because Bill Moss, who was the last player that they selected in the first round, defensive player back in '84, the Pro Bowl nose tackle, certainly anchors that right there. So as he grades out, we total up the same thing as Aundray Bruce, 19.2, quickness of 5.0. And a guy that size, that quick, is that scary.
Great lateral movement. Reminds me a lot of Art Still, that physical specimen that he is. And I think he's going to dominate on his side of the ball. A great choice for the Kansas City Chiefs.
We knew that Bruce would be one. Smith was a lock also. Now the fun begins as the Detroit Lions are up with the 3rd overall pick next. The draft continues in a moment.
I don't know whether to begin without him. I'm sure he's just sitting in that awful traffic.
Steve, in his new 190 class Mercedes, sitting in traffic. Oh, sure. He's sitting there in line, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel, tapping his foot, fiddling with the radio stations, staring at the taillights of the car in front of him. Marie, I've commuted with Steve.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, it means... That's what it means.
It's not just another credit card. It's the exciting new Citibank NFL Visa card that's different from any credit card you've ever carried or seen. It makes a statement that football is your sport and shows the world your favorite NFL team. Join the team. Call 1-800-NFL-VISA for a free tryout. The membership fee will be waived for the first 6 months. And get this, a 20% savings on authentic NFL Pro Line gear that you charge to your card. It's the real thing, exactly what NFL players and coaches wear. And Every time you use your card, you earn points you can redeem for free NFL Pro Line gear. Plus, just by being a Citibank NFL Visa card member, you're automatically entered in our Super Bowl 23 sweepstakes. Enjoy all the exclusive privileges and the fun that goes along with this card. Get on the phone now. Call 1-800-NFL-VISA to apply and join the team.
Round of lights here? Hey! Oh, good idea. Watch this, huh?
If you want the one light that outshines them all, ask for Bud Light.
Let me know when you're ready for another round.
Because everything else is just a light.
ESPN's coverage of the 1988 NFL Draft is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. By Bud Light, everything else is just a light. By AT&T, the right choice. And by the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. Welcome back to New York and the 53rd NFL Draft. We're not the only fellas here that will be watching the proceedings today. Let's go over to our guys who man the big board, Bob Lee and Mel Kiper.
All right, Chris, there's a big board downtown at Wall Street. It plots and charts the fortunes of the economy. And Mel Kiper's put together his big board of 40 top players. We're going to talk about Detroit, which right now has 850 to go to their selection. Picked up our first rumor of the day, though, Mel. Possibly the Rams looking to move up from their 14th spot, go where the Giants are going out of the 10 hole, and pick up Michael Irvin, wide receiver. It's reports, a rumor. We'll see if that eventuates. Detroit.
Well, Detroit, they made that great move, moving down one spot, picking up that second-round choice. Benny Blades would fit in extremely well here. He's an impact defender. Offensive coordinators have to change their game plan just with him being on the field. So I think Benny Blades here would be an outstanding choice.
We've heard talk about the quality of the draft. Some people have talked it down. Some people may want to talk it down. Well, for job security, if you're a player personnel guy, if things don't pan out. Also for economic reasons, because you've heard the story about Neil Smith, the difficulties he's having because the present-day value being put on his contract. You've been saying for years there are no bad drafts, just bad drafters.
I really believe that. They're only talking basically about the first round when they talk about bad drafts. And if you look back to '83, we had the 6 franchise quarterbacks. You put those 6 franchise quarterbacks in this draft, all of a sudden it goes to an outstanding year. But I really believe the depth at certain positions, particularly when you look at the running back spot, you look at wide receiver, you look at that defensive backfield position, and even if you look at the offensive line, 5, maybe 6 on round 1. So I think overall it's a strong 2nd to 5th round draft. And I think if you look, there's no glamour quarterbacks, there's no franchise receivers, but overall I think it's a very underrated draft.
So you wouldn't say that as good as we have it in the wide receiver category, these wide receivers aren't going to make the same kind of impact that the quarterbacks class of '83 made?
Those 3 receivers at the top, the Browns, the Sharps, the Irvins, can have the same impact that a Toon, a Rice, and a Brown had, and they can go back to the Chandler, Jefferson, and Lofton days. This is an outstanding core of receivers. There's no question all 3 of these guys can have an immediate impact in the NFL, particularly Irvin, because he comes from that ultimate pro-style attack at Miami.
We're awaiting the 3rd pick in the first round already. As predicted, Aundray Bruce has the signed contract. No drama there. Neil Smith taken by Kansas City. Detroit picking 3rd in the draft. They flip-flop with Kansas City. Let's talk about the Lions. They've got less than 7 minutes to make their selection. Jerry Venesi coming over from the Chicago Bears. We were talking about this yesterday. He may take the long-term view of how to do this. Darryl Rogers, the coach, he's got to win. He's got to win now. It's maybe a little surprising to some people he's going to be back to coach this team at the beginning of the '88 season because the Lions have not played well.
Well, they really haven't. And when you look at the Lions, they have a lot of needs. That's why Jerry, I think, was smart by moving down. When you talk about, picking up the 2nd-round choice, which is almost like a 1st-round choice, a 29th player overall. They didn't lose anything. They moved down to that 3 spot. Now they can move down again if they want. If they want to take Blades, fine. Blades is, like we talked about, an impact player that they probably could have considered with the 2nd choice. But this is a situational type thing where Kansas City just happened to feel like the Raiders would trade up to get Smith. They knew that the Raiders were offering a 2nd-round pick as well. And to move up, you're talking about to move down 1 position and pick up the 29th player for a team like Detroit, an outstanding move. For Kansas City, a team that needs a lot of players. They're not 2 or 3 players away from reaching the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl. They need bodies. They need to fill needs. And I think that's the reason that I question the trade that Kansas City made.
A lot of the assessments we'll be doing historically of the team's so-called blue chip chip picks, where teams pick in round 1, round 2. We'll call those the blue chip picks. 1980s in this decade. Detroit's had 14 selections in the first 2 rounds. They've drafted only 1 Pro Bowl player. That was Billy Sims. So they have come up empty in terms of Pro Bowl potential and Pro Bowl performance through this decade. And there might be a little bit of disagreement in that front office exactly where to go. No disagreement about where we're going with 5 minutes waiting on the Detroit selection. Let's get it back to Chris.
All right, Robert, thank you. And so the Detroit Lions, Jerry Vinicius, as you mentioned, the GM, would like the DB. The coach, Darryl Rogers, they have some seats to sell. Maybe would like a wide receiver. I have a feeling that a gentleman who has joined us here now kind of likes when teams draft wide receivers number 1, at least when he was playing, and that's Joe Theismann, late of the Redskins, current of ESPN. Right. Welcome aboard. Should Detroit draft a receiver, or do you got to go with a safety who can play there 10 years?
I think because of the amount of receivers that are in the draft, Detroit has the luxury of waiting for the second round to make that pick. I really feel like they have to go, although they have to sell seats, I think they have to go to Benny Blades. I really think they have to shore up that defensive secondary. Last game of the season, they start 4 free agents in the secondary. You're in the division with the Bears. You've got to figure out some way to stop people. I think they have to go defense.
In this day and age, Joe, with a safety that can hit and cover the style that Blades can, he's the only one, along with a Ricky Dixon, who's a corner, that stand head and shoulders up there. So I guess you can't let a guy like that pass.
No, you really can't. You can't give up the athletic ability. This man is a great young football player, and he's made an impact. He can be an impact player for them. They need some leadership. They need some young leadership on defense as well. As far as Jerry Vinicius goes and Darryl Rogers will make the pick. But believe me, we've seen what Vinicius did with the Bears. It's going to be a lot of his input and research that's going to build that defense, and that's where they want to start.
Do you sometimes devise a game plan totally away? Can you devise a game plan? Is Blades that good to say to let's say offensive coordinator, gee, they have Blades back there, we got to go somewhere else? Is he that good?
Not necessarily at the safety position. You can go away from corners. You can set your corners up and stay away from them. But safeties are always going to be somewhere in the play. A lot of times you want to take a safety, you can split a tight end out and say, like we tried to do in the Super Bowl 18. Didn't work. We tried to remove their strong safety. Didn't matter. We couldn't do it. So you can't really devise a game plan to take safeties out. It's tough.
Best laid plans of mice and men, right, Zim? So Detroit, you knew they'd spend all 15 minutes for this pick. They're probably still figuring it out.
Well, we have it Blades all the way. As far as the selling seat stuff, I think the fans are smarter than people give them credit for. You don't sell seats on one guy making a fancy run back. You sell seats on victories, and fans understand that, especially in a good football town like Detroit.
A player like Blades, Tommy, can he make linebackers better immediately?
I think so. It puts a lot of pressure on people to do things, as Joe said, outside toward the cornerbacks. Running a 4.3 40, I think Benny Blades is going to be the kind of guy that you will not be able to get away from.
All right, the pick is coming up. Let's go up to the podium, and here's the commissioner. He has it on the card.
Detroit Lions. The Lions select in the first round Benny Blades, defensive back, Miami.
And so we have defense.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
1, 2, 3. Bruce to the Falcons. Smith to the Kansas City Chiefs. Benny Blades goes to the Detroit Lions. So certainly the general manager won out. And in Benny Blades, Zim and Tommy, you're seeing a player that a year ago led the nation in interceptions with 10 as a junior. And Benny Blades at 6'1", 216 also was the fastest man on the Miami Hurricanes, running under a 4.4 40. And it's not as if the Hurricanes don't have a lot of players that can fly.
Well, and I think the interesting thing about Blades is that he's not content with knocking the ball down. He's the kind of kid who will go up for you, make the acrobatic catch. He doesn't mind dishing out some punishment. He's the kind of kid that's going to not only affect his position, but every other position in the defensive backfield.
5 interceptions last year. Career interceptions, he had 19. And as you mentioned, Tommy, he can certainly lay the old lumber. I hate to use the cliche, but enforce 5-0. That kind of backs up what we were thinking. Now, Tampa Bay with the 4th pick. Let's go to the podium.
Tampa Bay selects Wisconsin tackle Paul Gruber.
First upset.
First double
Next
cross.
up, Cincinnati.
The first upset, I figured, and you figured, I think, Dr. Z, that the Buccaneers would give Vinny Testaverde somebody to throw the ball to. We thought that their man would be Sterling Sharp, wide receiver from South Carolina. They go with the top-rated offensive lineman in the draft, where you got to protect the quarterback, too. Let's face it, Paul Gruber, tackle from Wisconsin, certainly not a bad pick, but guys thought that perhaps Vinny wanted someone to throw to.
Yeah, we thought that because he told us that.
Now, let me make that note on my watch. 12:21. It took 21 minutes. That's right. The first lie of the year. And so Paul Gruber, top lineman, goes to Tampa Bay. They hope he plays the old bookend tackle theory for the 10 years. And so now you're seeing the receivers slide down a bit. Now, the Bengals, of course, have made well, we'll talk about Gruber first. He's a guy that got better every year at Wisconsin. Still was improving as a senior. Definitely the top-rated lineman. Agrees him?
Well, I'd say the Bucks picked up 100 pounds on that pick by not taking a wide receiver. And in American money, you know, that's almost 200.
That's right. And so now, the Bucks need a lot of things. Ray Perkins does down there. You draft an offensive tackle. It's a good move, Tommy?
Yeah, I think so. I think that good football teams are built on the front line. And I think that's what Perkins knows. And a quarterback may want a wide receiver. I'm sure Joe liked to see a wide receiver drafted, but you also like to see protection up in front.
I'll tell you, as a wide receiver, you'd rather have a left tackle, because if the left tackle doesn't block the defensive ends and the linebackers, you're never going to get the ball down the field to a receiver. So I think if I'm Vinny Testaverde, I'm delighted, because that way I'm going to have a few more seconds. If my receiver isn't quite as fast, that's quite all right. I'm going to have a little more time to get the ball off to him. So I think if I'm a quarterback, I'm delighted with this pick.
So Paul Gruber goes to the Buccaneers. Let's go to Bobby and Mel.
All right, we're talking about the importance of that selection. When you look across the line, especially if you're playing left tackle in that division, in Tampa's division, is some of the right offensive ends, the defensive ends you've got to face.
You do. You got to go up against Dolman. You got to go up against Dent twice each year. And when you're talking about Vinny Testaverde, you're talking about a franchise quarterback, keeping him healthy, allowing him to hit the young receivers, Carrier and Hill. So when you're talking about Gruber, you put him over that left tackle spot. You keep that blindside pressure off of Testaverde. And like I say, facing Dent and Dolman twice each year, I'm sure that had a lot to do with Perkins' decision.
We're waiting on Cincinnati's selection. It'll be the 5th one in the first round. They've got about 12 and a half minutes to go, then to be followed by the Raiders. And we'll see what we've been hearing about the Raiders. Are they going to package the number 6 overall selection and the number 9 possibly to the skins for Jay Schrader? From the hot rumor of the weekend, our draft coverage continues from New York City right after this.
You can't beat the South Jersey locations or the facilities. Plus, Center City and Atlantic City are real close by.
Actually, I'm just staying here a short time in a Corman suite. But if I'm ever transferred up here permanently, I get a Corman apartment. My wife would flip.
Corman suite accommodations compared to a hotel, it's no contest.
I have a great apartment that I'm very proud of. And it's probably in the best spot in New Jersey.
I'd say Corman really works for me.
Miller Ford is out to break all sales records. We have the area's largest selection of new and used Ford cars, trucks, and vans ready to roll. If you're planning to buy a new car or truck this week, visit Miller Ford. A brand new 1988 F-150 XLT Lariat loaded with air conditioning, cruise control, tilt wheel, and sliding rear window. Now, for a limited time, take advantage of Ford's $500 factory rebate and buy all this truck for only $9,999. So what do you say?
Miller Ford.
Miller Ford, Route 38 in Mount Holly.
Serious. Battle lines are drawn for the NHL's Cold War. ESPN presents the Stanley Cup Playoffs. All live, all the way to the championship finals as teams take their shots at the defending champion Edmonton Oilers. The showdown heats up. The Stanley Cup Playoffs right here on ESPN.
The ballroom of the Marriott Marquis in New York City for the 9th consecutive year. ESPN's live and continuous coverage of the National Football League draft. We continue from the big board set along with Mel Kiper. I'm Bob Lee. We're waiting to see what Cincinnati does. 10 and a half minutes now remaining. Each team with 15 minutes to make that first round selection. Cincinnati. In the 80s, with their early picks, they've had a great emphasis on defense. We've had, the first 3 selections here have been defensive selections. We haven't seen a vaunted wide receiver taken. Will the Bengals take the first wide receiver?
I really think right now you're getting to the point where Timmy Brown is becoming the best player available. And it's going to be interesting to see who passes up a need factor to go with, I'd say you look at it, the Cincinnati Bengals, the defensive back position. And of course, Ricky Dixon from Oklahoma is sitting there. Even though he's a slight projection moving from free safety to corner, he would definitely fill that need for the Bengals. Evidently at the combine workout, all three Browns, Paul Brown, Mike Brown, and Pete Brown, were really looking specifically at running backs. Brad Muster's name came up. Hasn't been working out for a lot of clubs lately. Of course, they had that ankle injury during the year. But I think a running back, considering the fact that, James Brooks, tough to keep him healthy for 16 games. Kennebrew, has had that weight fluctuate back and forth and has been an underachiever. I think you look at that running back position, that cornerback spot, that may supersede that wide receiver, Timmy Brown, being the best athlete on the board at this point.
We're waiting to see what happens if we go 5 selections deep without having a wide receiver. One of the teams that really has improved, Philadelphia. That's our next destination. Pete Axtell, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Bob. One thought that occurred to me, a lot of people may wonder, why did Kansas City trade up, give up a second-round draft choice just to move from third to second choice? Well, the reason is some people cast great shadows over every draft. Some people around this league just have an impact even when they're not doing anything. What happened was, when Al Davis traded Sean Jones for the number 9 draft pick, there were rumors that he was then going to trade up with Detroit, get the second pick, and take Neil Smith out from under Kansas City. Kansas City, anything but let the Raiders get a player that they wanted. They traded up, made quite a sacrifice. Now the next shadow comes up. Just talking to Buddy Ryan a few minutes ago, he was saying if Bobby Beathard makes the deal and trades Schrader for the Raiders' 6th and 9th pick in the first round, that's terrifying to the rest of the Eastern Division. Suddenly, Beathard, who's used to dealing with no ammunition in first rounds, would have a lot of ammunition and probably end up with Keith Jackson. Back to you, Bob.
All right, you look so good sitting at Buddy Ryan's desk with the picture of one of his many horses there behind you with the vet in Philadelphia. Rumors flying about the Schrader trade, and some people saying, is he a quarterback to trade? Younger?
I'll tell you, Mark Rypien's the key to the whole deal. Of course, Doug Williams coming off that knee injury, only had that one big game, the Super Bowl. So I think Mark Rypien is the key to this whole deal if, in fact, Schrader is traded. You also hear Montana's name come up. We even hear the wild rumor about McMahon.
Yes.
Everybody seems to think that the Raiders will trade those 2 choices rather than keep those 2 selections. It's hard to say right now because it's the supply and demand with quarterbacks, Bob. You got to give up an awful lot to get a quarterback like this, and whether the Raiders want to do that is to be seen right now. But definitely the rumors are flying about those 3 quarterbacks.
We picked up a report just before we went on the air that the L.A. Rams, who have a lot of selections coming, of course, because of the Dickerson trade in the 14 hole, might be trying to move up to 10 and trade off with the Giants and pick up Michael Irvin. And Howard Balzer, one of our regulars every year, has been with us, situated at Rams headquarters. And let's check in with Howard.
Okay, Bob, here we are in Anaheim, a glorious day. We finally got some good weather out here. No rainouts in sight for any of the baseball teams. Obviously, the Rams, the big story of the morning here at Rams Park. A lot of rumors surrounding them trying to trade up with their 2 picks in the first round. Plus, of course, they have 3 second-round picks also. Michael Irvin has been a name that's mentioned. Don't count out Tim Brown. Remember, the Rams looking for a kick returner now that Ron Brown has announced his retirement to pursue a track career. Other talk with San Diego. The Chargers don't have a second-round pick. That went to the Rams in the Barry Redden deal last year. The Chargers and the Rams apparently talking again. Tight end Pete Holohan might be involved. Also, running back Gary Anderson. So the Rams trying to make a lot of moves to get up. Craig Hayward might not be in their plans. Apparently the organization has perhaps counted him out. Gaston Green might be a possibility for the Rams further down in that first round, Bob.
A lot of rumors flying about possibility to trade up. One other possibility. Philadelphia, Miami, maybe making a move?
Miami and Philadelphia evidently both have a keen interest in Keith Jackson, tight end from Oklahoma. You have Green Bay sitting there with that 7th choice. Lindy Infante, going back to when he was the offensive coordinator at Tulane, had Rodney Holman. Moves to Cincinnati, had Dan Ross. Over to Cleveland with Ozzie Newsome. Tight end's a key position for Infante, and if you look at those 2 clubs, Miami and Philadelphia, the kind of impact that Keith Jackson could have with a Marino, with a Randall Cunningham, those 2 clubs may be jockeying for position in attempts to garner the Oklahoma tight end.
And you have to wonder if the Rams have been talking about trading up with the Giants to get Michael Irvin, whether they have to make that trade now. 4 selections deep, and no wide receiver has been put up on the big board. Chris?
All right, Bobby, just after seeing Howard Balzer and also Mel, we're going to vote at the end of this 7 hours best hair in the league. Mel or Howard Balzer. Bengals, what have they been doing? Of course, they spent their career in the 80s drafting wide receivers. Do they go with another one? Paul Brown, in print, not that long ago said, I really would like to sign Tim Brown. Tim Brown's going to ask for a lot of dollars. You have to wonder, do they go again? This is the 20 selections in the first 2 rounds. They've gotten 11 starters out of that, which is pretty good, but they draft a lot of wide receivers over the years. Of course, they have McGee and Eddie Brown, and then in 81, they went Verser, Collinsworth 1 and 2. I can't see the Bengals going receiver, Dr. Z. I would have to think that Ricky Dixon, right? That's who you were talking about, because there's a fall-off after Blades and Dixon, and third defensive back is quite a way lower, correct?
Well, they're early in the week, their projected order was Blades number 1, Dixon number 2, and then a dogfight among the wide receivers. Muster is a name that's been mentioned a lot. They like him. In fact, Pete Brown, their personnel manager, called him a Jack Armstrong type. They like him very much, but I think they like Dixon better.
Well, we shall know, because the pick is now at the podium, and let's check in with the commissioner. Checking the name, of course.
Cincinnati Bengals. Pick on the first round, defensive back, Oklahoma, Ricky Dixon. Los Angeles Raiders are up.
And so the Bengals go with Ricky Dixon, and we have 4 defensive players and an offensive lineman chosen in the first 5. And now I think we come to wide receivers and running backs. So Dixon, who played safety at college, going to play corner in the pros, goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Quickly, let's bring in Bino Cook, who, of course, has been on the Tim Brown watch personally through his career at Notre Dame. You don't want to call him a plummeter here, but here's the Heisman Trophy winner. How far could he slide down, and does he surprise you?
Well, whoever gets him still is going to get a great player. And he's also a kid who absolutely caused no problems. He's a class individual. He's going to be able to punt returns, kickoff returns. He will be in the Pro Bowl within 3 seasons.
Maybe, if the Raiders don't do anything. Al Davis has enjoyed Heisman Trophy winners in the past. He does have some wide receivers. Would Tim Brown look good in Raider colors?
Well, he looked good in any colors. That's the way I look at him. I mean, he's going to be a great player. They want defensive backs, but Tim Brown, when he plays, again, he will be an outstanding player in the NFL. There's no doubt he would go within the next couple players.
We'll get back, Bino, to Tim Brown shortly. Let's take a look at the figures on Ricky Dixon, who, as we mentioned, was a safety for Oklahoma, but projects to a cornerback in the pros. 5'11", 177 pounds, an excellent one-on-one defender, a fearless tackler who also has the great speed, which, of course, you need to play the corner. He shared with Benny Blades the Jim Thorpe Award last year as the outstanding defensive back in college football. 8 interceptions for 214 yards in returns last year with 1 touchdown. And Ricky Dixon goes to those Bengal stripes where they certainly can use some help at the defensive back position. And so he goes out of the Big 8 to the Cincinnati Bengals in a division where the Bengals feel that even though they had the real poor record, they don't need that much to change their fortunes into an above 500 team and into a team that can contend for the AFC Central crown. Now his ratings, you see the quickness and the agility are the best, and they add up to a 19-0. So Ricky Dixon on our board is number 9 as Mel rates him. And so the Cincinnati Bengals, realizing that Blades and Dixon, a class of their own, had to go defensive back. Good move. I mean,
I think so. I think if you need a corner, he's a good one. He received a lot of one-on-one coverage when he was at Oklahoma, and I think that that's going to help him make the adjustments in the corner. You mentioned his main attributes, quickness and agility, and you can't look for anything better in corner. Quickness and agility and that ability to go up and get the football, and Ricky's got all of that.
No question that the Bengals need some help defensively. I mean, even though they didn't show much of the one-loss record, their offensive stats, if you just look at stats, of course, there are lies, darn lies in statistics, some people say, but the Bengals have been looking for defensive help in a long time, and they got Dixon in the first round. We'll be back with the next pick because the fun is just beginning. The Raiders, who own the next pick, the 6th overall, and the 9th overall, are up next, and we'll be back to New York in a moment.
Get real. Really real. your Proline catalog, send $1 to 10812 Alder Circle, Dallas, Texas, 75238. That's 10812 Alder Circle, Dallas, Texas.
We are back at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York. Chris Berman and a cast of thousands as we continue our live coverage of the 53rd NFL Draft. Couple of notes. When the Buccaneers selected Paul Gruber from Wisconsin, they also, back in 1980, took an offensive lineman from Wisconsin, Ray Snell, in the first round. Never quite turned out to be the player that they obviously hope that Gruber will be. And a note on Benny Blades. If you're thinking, gee, I wonder how long ago a defensive back went that high, I can't remember. You're not suffering from Alzheimer's because you have to go back to 1963 when the Cardinals picked Jerry Stovall that high or higher with the second overall pick. So that tells you what kind of class Benny Blades is in. Now, the rumors flying about Jay Schroeder maybe getting traded from the Redskins to the Raiders now that the Raiders moved up and had the 6th and the 9th overall pick. Our Pete Axthelm visited with Bobby Beathard, GM of the Redskins, and he talked about the possibility.
One hot topic in the league. Are you going to trade Jay Schroeder?
I really think it's highly unlikely that there'll be any deal for Jay Schroeder. We had an inquiry from a team earlier this spring, and we listened. There had been no offer made for Jay Schroeder, and the only thing our thought was that if people are going to make these inquiries, we have to listen. I think you have to listen when any team calls about a trade. If it's something that could help the Redskins, then possibly we'd consider that. But we'd love to go to training camp just the way we are because Doug Williams did a great job, and Jay Schroeder's a young quarterback. I think he has a great future, so it would be very, very unlikely that we would make a trade for a quarterback.
The Raiders with the next selection. There they are on the special helmet phone. And
that's Al Davis's brother, Jerry.
Yeah.
No, really.
Is it?
Yeah, the guy in the light jacket is Al's brother.
Well, are they talking about a trade? No.
Well, I talked to him before. He said no trade. And I said Tim Brown was the guy that I thought they'd pick, and he said no, they don't need a receiver. They seem to think that Mervyn Fernandez can play. They're the only ones that do. They said defensive back if available or offensive lineman. I still think Tim Brown.
What about their quarterback situation? I mean, it's almost impossible to trade for a QB, but they got to go with Wilson. We talked last night. Shanahan likes Wilson a little bit, the new coach?
Well, I think that if he's there and he's the only guy you have to like him. But I think if they get a chance to pick up a good quarterback, a guy that they think can help this football team. Although I will say this too, when Bo Jackson is in running, when he puts down his baseball glove and he comes and he runs, he makes Mark Wilson a better quarterback. Maybe that's what Shanahan's depending on.
I just heard a rumor that the Raiders are trying to trade for Joe Theismann. Anything to that, Joe?
No, as a matter of fact, I just made the phone call. There was no. I heard the rumor myself.
Now that's your kind of team.
I wrote something down to Pete, and I was going to hand it to him, say, would you consider it? I actually tried to go to the Raiders when I was unable to play with the Redskins anymore, and I asked if he was interested. He said, excuse me? So that took care of that. I really believe the Raiders they'll either trade. I don't think they're going to trade for a quarterback. A lot of time when a new coach takes over, he's willing to give that other quarterback a good look. And this is where I think it'll happen here with the Raiders. You don't have the same, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this guy syndrome. You've got a new coach. He says, okay, maybe a new system, maybe a new life will change this guy's outlook. I think that's what they have with Wilson. Plus, you have to remember, Al Davis's ego is involved. He drafted Wilson. I don't think he's going to give up on him right now. He's going to try and surround him with some support. And Tommy brought up a great point. When they get Bo Jackson there, it makes everybody better. The trouble is you don't want to be 0-7 or 0-8 by the time you get Bo into uniform.
Yeah, that is a concern, as the Raiders have never drafted this high, 6th overall. And, of course, they pick up the 9th pick in the deal involving Sean Jones. I do know this, that they were talking to the Chargers, and Steve Ortmeyer, who used to be with the Raiders, perhaps packaging receiver Dokie Williams and Mark Wilson for a Chargers #1. They also talked to the Chargers maybe about just Wilson going down there. The Chargers already got Malone. They're going to get Wilson too. I mean, they're collecting. At any rate, I'll stop that sentence right there. But that was a rumor, and that they were indeed on the phone with San Diego, but no trade to that effect. As we wait, think about the guys that are waiting for that phone call to find out when they're drafted. It could take an hour, could take 5 hours. Our Andrea Joyce is in Stillwater, Oklahoma, with a running back who could be a first-rounder, Thurman Thomas. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Chris. We all know that the NFL team officials need piles and piles of statistics to get through this day. Players, on the other hand, have a couple of other needs: patience and maybe enough food to get them through what could be several hours of waiting. In Thurman Thomas's apartment, a typical college refrigerator, practically empty, but when you walk over to the stove, you see that something is definitely going on here. This is a special occasion. Probably more food here than Thurman has ever had in this apartment. Go on into the living room, and the transformation of this apartment continues. Take a look at this. All of the furniture strategically placed around the one essential piece of equipment this afternoon, that, of course, being the television set. It is a little bit quiet in here right now. You see Thurman sitting there very pensively. All of the folks here, of course, expect everything to change by the end of the first round. They expect there to be some celebrating. Now back to New York and Chris Berman.
And here go the Raiders.
Raiders select on the first round, wide receiver, Notre Dame, Tim Brown.
Yep. Like we said,
Next
Al
up, Green Bay
likes to collect Heisman Trophy winners. You had Marcus Allen, and we didn't mean to cut Aundray off so quickly because, you know, we're kind of getting hungry. It looks like there were some good things in the kitchen. Tim Brown, so he certainly doesn't plummet very far. And so the Raiders, they have their receivers. They have Lofton and Fernandez, but I guess the man can return kicks, he can return punts, and he's a heck of a player.
I think when you have two first-round choices like they do, on your first one, you go for the exceptional athlete. You don't think of position. On your second one, now you can start thinking of filling a need like offensive line or something like that. But if you've got that exceptional talent, you got to grab him on that high pick.
Offensive line, of course, they did last year with Clay. They've done some high picks of the Raiders, so we shall see what they do. But obviously, we know now that the number 6 and the number 9 overall pick are not going to be involved in a trade. So Tim Brown, the Heisman Trophy winner, goes to the Los Angeles Raiders. And just thinking of, well, let's look at Tim Brown, and of course you know what he's done. People questioned the last half of the college football season. They were kind of down on him, but I think down because, gee, should he win the Heisman Trophy? So we should qualify, how down are you on him? Now, he never did have the benefit of a classic drop-back quarterback, pro-style quarterback.
How many college wide receivers do?
Not too many, of course. At Miami, they play in the pro set more.
Yeah, well, that's one school.
Well, I came up with one off the top of my head. Okay. Brown University and Columbia, of course, also have those, but that's another story.
Columbia has a classic major.
So Tim Brown returns the punts, returns the kicks, and as we all remember, the Monday night game in which the Rams came out of nowhere when Ron Brown was doing the returning. You can change a game right away with just kick and punt returning, and he rates to a 19-2, and quickness, you can't be any higher. You know, thinking about Thurman Thomas and also Tim Brown and all these guys, Tommy, what was it like for you sitting, waiting for the call to come when it was draft day for you?
Oh, I think most players tend to rate themselves a little bit higher than the various rating systems that are around this country. I thought that I would be a first-round draft choice. I thought I would go somewhere low in the first round. By the time the first 2 rounds went by, I found myself being a little bit upset because that translated into lost dollars. I think that's why most ball players get upset. But the fact is, if you go in those first 3 or 4 rounds, you're going to get a real good look from the coaches, and you just make the best of it. I was very nervous, but a little bit angry.
Joe, what about yourself? Waiting for the call, and of course you have an interesting story on that.
Well, it was terribly frustrating. What really happened, and Tommy brings up an interesting point, you sometimes rate yourself higher than you actually have other people view you. My problem was I had a lot of different people, a lot of different scouts, a lot of different teams come up and say, if you're still around in the first round, we're going to draft you. Well, I was around in the first round. I was around in the second round. I was around in the third round. Finally, midway through the third round, I said, the heck with it, I'm going to play basketball. They called me off the basketball court to come tell me Miami drafted me. I was very disappointed.
All right, so as the players wait, we'll be checked back with Thurman Thomas and see who's going to go play basketball. And some guys are going to get selected today to be football players. We'll be back in New York as the Packers are next up with the 7th overall pick.
Saying goodbye to a car you've owned for years is a lot like saying goodbye to an old friend. But if it's a Mercedes-Benz, there's always this cheering fact to consider. Over the years, Mercedes-Benz automobiles as a line have retained a higher percentage of their original value than any other make of car sold in America. And that can make the sorrow of parting a little sweeter.
I've devised my own way to cook perfect steaks without slicing them open. I cook an extra little piece, and I test it. No one ever knows. Because I eat the evidence. Beef. Real food for real people.
The new Black & Decker push-button weed trimmer versus this conventional trimmer. Only Black & Decker has a push-button that lets out line for continuous cutting, no bumping. While the conventional trimmer makes a better sweater, Black & Decker makes an easier-to-use trimmer.
This Louisiana lefty has 11 career no-hitters before the end of his junior year in high school. I'm Chris Fallon. The story of Rusty Rugg on this week's Scholastic Sports America, Wednesday on ESPN.
Green Bay Packers are next up as we're back live in New York now. There is a question with the new coach, Lindy Infante. And you know that Lindy is an offensive-minded guy. Does he go for a tight end like Keith Jackson? Some feel that that would be a reach with the 7th pick of the draft, that he does not rate that high on the board. But I wonder, with no quarterbacks that really are deep throwers, with Wright and Mikowski, they all wear number 5, and Bosco, and no backs that are great receivers out of the backfield, Jim, that with Jackson head and shoulders above everybody else at a tight end, isn't this a good pick for them?
No, because I want Buddy Ryan to get him, because that's the way I picked it in the paper.
Okay.
But I think they wanted defense. The top 3 are gone. They would have taken any one of the top 3. They said now they might trade down. But I don't think they expected Sterling Sharp to be here. So right now, at this point, I'd say Sterling Sharp or Michael Irvin, wide receivers.
Even though their receivers are pretty good, they're not in that class. Well, they have Stanley and Epps, and they have some good receivers.
Exceptional talent.
You know, people waiting because there's so many wide receivers, and some of them have to start disappearing. Timmy Brown now. But, and this is, granted, again, keep in mind, this is my first year doing this, the Jack rating system. But I look for him to maybe go for somebody on a defensive line, if they can get a good defensive lineman, a stub, someone of that nature.
But not this high.
Yeah, maybe not right now, but yeah, or a wide receiver.
With those 2 guys left, with Sharp and Irvin, maybe that's where they go. We'll check with the big board and see if they go for we'll get it officially done on the draft now, okay, guys? Best player available. Mark it down, 1248. Who is it, Hob and Mel?
All right. It was early, but he got it in. Best athlete available. This is the big board with the top 40 that Mel Kiper has put together with his grades. The big board on Wall Street, sometimes you get that herd mentality. Somebody starts selling. We saw what happened last October 19th on Black Monday. You see it on draft day. Something happens, the run starts. Does Tim Brown's selection start the run on wide receivers and still make the Rams want to move up from 14 to 10? Or has any log jam been broken here?
Well, we talk about all the needs of these teams. When you talk about 2 or 3 major teams for each club, Bob, and when you talk about the wide receivers of Sharp and Irvin, 2 franchise guys, now to a team like the Jets, who obviously need offensive line help. You see a Cadigan, you see a Randall McDaniel sitting there as well, 2 outstanding players. Do they say, okay, let's match up Irvin with Toon or Sharp with Toon, and let's have that dynamite combination to provide O'Brien with 2 outstanding targets, rather than go for those 2 offensive linemen, either Cadigan or McDaniel? That's the interesting thing with the Jets. An underrated player on the line. Nobody seems to mention, Eric Moore's name. Yeah. He seems to go unnoticed. Everybody feels like, Kevin Allen was a bust from Indiana. He wore number 75 as well. You look at Eric Moore. Eric Moore is a quality bookend offensive tackle. This guy can be at that left tackle position and stay there for 10 to 12 years and be a Pro Bowler.
All right, let's zero in on the Green Bay Packers. They have just under 7 minutes now to make their selection in the first round. It'll be the 7th overall selection. And that's not the selection being announced at this point. Tom Bratz, player personnel recovering from a heart attack. You look back, they took Brent Fullwood last year. That was the first time in 5 years, in 6 years actually, that the Packers had gone for a so-called skilled position. I know Paul Zimmerman doesn't like me not referring to offensive linemen as skill position, certainly. We're talking the wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks. So they have not done well. They also have not done well historically, the Packers, in the common draft with their number 1 selections. You look back at their number 1s in the common draft, they've only drafted 2 Pro Bowlers early on. They've got some specific needs. Let me pin you down get your tarot cards out. Where are they going with this?
Well, I think defense is their key need. But if you look at the board right now, you don't see any defensive linemen that would be worthy of that pick. No defensive backs. You look over to offense, and I think when you see a pass rusher, you can't go in that direction unless you reach for a player. So I think that would be a mistake at this point. You go for, although one player moving way up is Aaron Jones from Eastern Kentucky. His workouts have been unbelievable. He's up to 260 now. He's been running in the 4.7s, doing bench pressing with 225, 28 times. Aaron Jones is a player worth watching at any point in this first round. Defensive backfield help's not going to happen. Top-notch quarterback, no. Pass receiving tight end is Jackson. But I think what Chris Berman and the crew over there alluded to was the fact that when you come back and you have a Frankie Neal and a Walter Stanley, there's no franchise receiver there. So that gets back to Sharp and Irvin. That's why I think there's no question here that you have to go Sharp, Irvin, or Brown. I think they're the three best players on the board right now. Of course, Brown, I meant Jackson. Jackson, Sharp, and Irvin right now are the three best players on the board.
So we are seeing it so graphically illustrated, that classic debate each year. Do you draft for need? Do you draft for best athlete available? You've got to go for best athlete available. And of course, as we look down towards what's going to be happening once this draft is in the book, towards training camp, are we going to have protracted holdout once again? We've already talked about, now with 5 minutes remaining in the Green Bay selection, the value of a contract. Aundray Bruce, on paper, $4.1 million. The people that are negotiating for Neil Smith are running up against the negotiating posture with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're applying, the Chiefs are assuming a 10% inflation figure, which will take that value with the deferral money into the 1990s down to $3 million. There's a hard line out there. You know, you talk about the possibility of an impasse being imposed by the federal judge in Minneapolis, and then possibly a pay scale coming down from the management side. There is there not right now, a de facto and in fact pay scale? You can look at what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. You know what you're going to make based on where you're. It's just a fact of life.
You just get slotted in that position, and I think the people realize that exactly what they can determine as far as dollars and cents. Of course, unless you're that franchise quarterback, unless you have 3 or 4 in the first round. This year, we don't have any legitimate franchise quarterbacks or franchise running backs. So yeah, it will be a slotted type situation again, probably, Bob.
All right, the Raiders have selected Tim Brown. Less than 4 minutes to go for Green Bay. Doesn't look like that Raiders-Skins trade's going to happen, at least now at this point. Packers are up, and we're back to New York City in round 1 in New York after this.
Today, you need an insurance company that looks out for you year after year. A company with experience, measured in centuries instead of years. A company with a firm financial footing. You need the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. When you need us most, we're at our best. That's the Hartford difference.
The NFL experience. It's pure excitement. The sights and the sound. The awesome power. The incredible moves. The color. The pageantry. The full experience. You get it firsthand when you're there. As a season ticket holder, you'll be where the action is, from the opening kickoff to the tense final moments of the season. You'll see the games and the stars you want to see. You'll be part of the excitement, not just watching NFL football, but living it. But act fast. Order season tickets now for your team. For some NFL teams, they're already gone. Call this number and we'll rush details on seating selection. Make sure you've got a seat for the season. Call 1-800-453-7200 for the NFL experience.
This is the leading edge of racing technology. The perfection of the new Pennzoil Z7 Special powered by the Penske Chevrolet engine. And from day one, it has run on the world-class protection of Pennzoil motor oil. There is no other engine in the world like it, and no other oil in the world can protect it like Pennzoil. Pennzoil, world-class protection that exceeds U.S. warranty requirements of every car maker in the world. Now save $3 a case or 20 cents a quart. See mail-in rebate coupon in the back of every bottle.
Double-check that pronouncer, of course. San Diego to be followed by Miami. This will be the 14th
Rams
selection.
select running back, UCLA, Gaston Green.
It is a running
Next up
back.
from San Diego.
It's not Ironhead. It's Gaston Green from UCLA. And so San Diego now has the option of taking Ironhead if they'd like him.
I think San Diego might go for Brad Muster or Lorenzo White at this point. I think when you look at Muster, the kind of damage he can do, we're talking about that one-back offense, but, you know, Hayward's a possibility as well. This is a Hayward, Muster, Lorenzo White for that one-back offense. We're talking about San Diego going with Bernstein and Winslow at that tight end spot, moving Anderson outside. I think now you're going to see these running backs come off the board right and left because we got the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting there 18th that also need backs as well. So I think there's no question about it that you're going to see running backs fall dramatically. We still may have 5 or 6 going round
It could
one.
turn into a Merrill Lynch commercial with a stampede of Buffaloes, except it's a stampede for the running back. Let's take a look at Gaston Green, selected by the Rams at the first of their 2 selections in this first round. Gaston Green, the 14th selection overall out of UCLA, has single-season record holder for the Bruins, the all-time record holder for the Bruins. When you consider some of the people that played there, like Freeman McNeil and Wendell Tyler and Theodis Brown, that is saying something. Had a pinched nerve back in late October, then some hamstring problems that kept him out of the Aloha Bowl, and he only caught some 8 passes in his senior season. So I think, Mel, there might be a question about the endurance factor here.
No question about it. You know, he's missed a lot of practice and playing time. You see the moves here. You see the quickness. You know, but I think the fact that he doesn't like to play with pain, he's missed a lot of time over the years, would downgrade him slightly in my mind. That's why I think John Stevens will turn out to be the most productive back out of this draft, and he doesn't figure to go until maybe the 3rd or 4th as far as running backs are concerned. You see
Perfect
Green,
grade there for the outside speed.
4.29 speed, great outside quickness. You know, catches the football adequately. He's certainly not an outstanding receiver coming out of backfield. Block, you know, adequate there. Inside, certainly not an inside threat that Hayward would be. He's an outside speed guy, like I say, but durability in my mind dropped his grade down. That's why, like I say, Bob, John Stevens, I think, you know, when you look at underrated backs because of his size and his speed, he has that combination that you look for, and he's an underrated receiver as well. It's going to be a steal for somebody. It might be the Pittsburgh Steelers with that 18th pick. I think the Chargers right now have to look at Muster and White. I think that's the obvious choice here, simply because they have to have a back net one-back set. And, of course, you look at wide receiver with Anthony Miller, where I'm going to keep mentioning his name because he's an outstanding player.
It's going to be a skill position pick for San Diego. That's your selection.
No question about it.
12:40 remaining on the Charger pick. Gaston Green gets to play in his hometown. Midway through the first round, our coverage continues from New York City on a Sunday.
It's not just another credit card. It's the exciting new Citibank NFL Visa card that's different from any credit card you've ever carried or seen. It says football is your sport and shows the world your favorite NFL team. For a free 6-month membership, call 1-800-NFL-VISA. Every time you use your card, you earn points you can redeem for free NFL Pro Line gear. And as an NFL Visa card member, you're automatically entered in our Super Bowl 23 sweepstakes. Call 1-800-NFL-VISA and join the team.
The legendary Mercedes-Benz SL Coupe Roadster. To every reason you ever had for wanting to drive it, you can now add one more. A mighty 5.6-liter light alloy V8 engine. 227 horsepower. Infinite driving excitement. The Mercedes-Benz 560 SL.
Don't forget, football's not the only game in town on ESPN. Tonight, Game 4, the Adams Division Finals in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens against the Boston Bruins. That's live from the Boston Garden, as the Bruins have lost 18 straight playoff series to the Montreal Canadiens. Try and win. They're up 2-1. And then the next night, on Monday night, the Calgary Flames try and stay alive against the Edmonton Oilers, with the Oilers up 3-0 against the team with the best record in the NHL. That's Monday at 9:30 Eastern Time. And I just wonder from Dr. Z and from Tommy who they think the Calgary Flames are going to pick in the next round.
Brad Muster.
Okay, there you go. Now, Gaston Green of the Rams. Was that a battle with Robinson and Zampese, Ernie Zampese, the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, Robinson liked the big guy, and his staff loved Gaston Green. They love that speed. They love the things he can do. The only question is he was nicked up at UCLA. He was a little bit hurt. In that system, you know, you have to carry 20, 25 times. But splitting the job with Charles White or anybody else they plug in there, he can do it. And I think they talked the coach out of Ironhead and into Gaston Green.
They now, Tommy, have USC with Charles White. They got UCLA with Gaston Green. Gaston Green has never really played, as you mentioned, Z, the complete season. Do you like the pick, or do you prefer another back?
I think that has to be the question mark. I thought that it would be Brad Muster, but I think that you certainly are getting a quality back. I think the question you bring up is how often will he be on the football field? And when you have to carry the ball as many as 25, 30 times a football game, it could get really touchy.
The San Diego Chargers down the road a piece from the Rams are up next. You mentioned that our run on backs begins right now. Are the Chargers one of them, Dr. Z?
Well, they like Anthony Miller, the wide receiver. They're worried about Muster because of his ankle and because he hasn't worked out. They like Lorenzo White. Steve Wortmeyer told me he's going to be the first back pick. Of course, he wasn't. They like him very much. They could go in that direction, or they could go Elliott, who they feel is strictly a right tackle. He can't play the open side, but they want a right tackle. That's what they want. So I would say one of those four, and on a flyer, I'll say Elliott.
All right, Tommy, your thoughts on the Chargers?
Well, I think they certainly could use a guy like Muster, and certainly a question mark about his injury, but I think that a kid at that age is able to shake that off, and I think that I'll go with Muster.
Muster is a fullback type that can do some things. It's a little early to start comparing him to a player of the stature of a John Riggins, but he has those moves that not too many big guys have. He comes out of the backfield and catches the ball as well as any guy that size. I'm told since Chuck Muncie was an excellent receiving big type of back. So Muster is a unique type of player in this draft. Maybe he'll go to San Diego. We shall see, as the Chargers, and look over my shoulder, have just under 9 minutes to go to make their first selection. Also word that the Chargers might be looking to move down. We shall see. We haven't had the draft day moves yet. Will the Chargers be the first ones to do some shaking? We'll be back.
Today, you need an insurance company with a firm financial footing, a company with staying power and intelligence to see you through year after year, a company with experience you can count on. You need the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. When you need us most, we're at our best. That's the Hartford difference.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way
Sound, but not words.
there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
It all makes perfect sense. We can transmit sound over the phone. Well, why not pictures?
Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly.
Hi. That sure beats going to the library.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Let's get that other opinion. Ready, Houston?
Got it, Omaha.
Eyes on.
From the beginning, AT&T has been committed to helping the people of the world communicate better.
Thomas, you are late.
Goodbye. Funny how the future seems to repeat itself.
And the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true.
This report details new opportunities in several markets here.
And we'll be arriving in
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, at 200 kilometers, 125 miles per hour for you.
I never would have known. 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Too bad.
About $1.40 remains in the Green Bay Packers' chance to select their top choice in the NFL draft. While we were away, the gallery gods here having a good time humming the theme song of Final Jeopardy. So the word for the Packers is they must give their pick in the form of a question. Since Final Jeopardy has been
They're talking trade, Chris. That's why it's taking so long.
They better get it done in 1:15, and you know the long distance rates these days. the Packers. Now, we thought maybe it's Jackson. And what I'd like to do after, here comes the pickup, and we'll see if it's the all-important trade card, which is a different color than the all-important
four
pick
hearts.
card. And, of course, the Jets are next up, so the fans are getting restless here. The Jets pick 8, the Giants 10, but the Packers with the 7th overall pick. We're going over, maybe it's Don Mikowski, so he's checking the pronunciation here, because it looks like a lot. They've done that before. So the commissioner now announces the Packers.
Green Bay Packers select wide receiver, South Carolina, Sterling Sharp. Next up, New York Jets.
So Sterling Sharp, the second of our blue chip wide receivers, and there are 5 definitely that will go in the first round, and we would think so. But we begin this discussion again involving Tim Brown, who goes to the Raiders, who, by the way, is the highest Notre Dame player selected since Steve Niehaus, Seattle, 1976. And now the 7th pick goes Sterling Sharp of South Carolina. Zim and Tommy, no matter which team I talk to, they all had them outstanding players that they all would enjoy. But 4 or 5 teams like Brown the best, 4 or 5 teams like Irvin the best, 4 or 5 teams like Sharp the best. If you had to choose, Zim, who would you have selected?
Brown.
Why?
Double threat. Great receiver, great return man. He also runs, don't forget, he runs that reverse out of the backfield. He can take on complicated offensive assignments. I think he's terrific. I mean, he's a big league guy. Irvin I like a little better than Sharp now, although I liked Sharp better last week. Irvin's bigger and tougher. Sharp is very good, an Art Monk type.
Tommy, who would you have selected first?
Well, I think certainly Z has a point. Brown can do a lot of things for you. He can be on the field a little bit more. I liked Irvin better than Sharp just because he's so physically tough. I love his attitude, Raider-type attitude, if I can say so.
So Irvin, the biggest at 6'2", Brown, the accomplished return man. But some teams told me that the man the Packers just selected, Sterling Sharp, is the best rounded. That his hard cuts inside and his fast cuts outside are the best. They are better going across the middle than either of the other 2 guys.
Well, maybe it's the fast cuts inside and hard cuts outside.
Whatever it is. Whichever way they turn, Sterling Sharp, who also is a good return man. Let's not forget this. The Packers, who have Walter Stanley, a marvelous return man. Sharp also does quite well returning the ball. Maybe not from South Carolina, the kind of accolades that Tim Brown received for his return work, but Sterling Sharp will probably be put back there with the Packers, although, as we mentioned, Stanley is there as well. So Sterling Sharp goes to Green Bay, and Fonte does get some sort of a receiver. Now it's up to him to decide which one of the quarterbacks he's going to use. Mikowski, Bosco, they've been waiting for, or is it Randy Rout, to go to Sterling Sharp. When you look at the rating for Sterling Sharp, he, of course, is up there just as high as the rest at 19.0 with his quickness and the hands, and you see all the 4.8 ratings. How about adjusting to pro-style offense for Sterling Sharp?
The thing that'll help me is being able to read coverages, because we had to do a lot of that in our offense, and I had the ability to change a lot of plays from my position. So I think that's going to be the biggest plus for me going into the NFL, is the run and shoot allowed me to read defenses and read coverages on the run. And I think it's become pretty easy now. I can kind of pick up different keys and tell what type of defenses they're in.
So Sterling Sharp, the first draft pick in the Lindy Infante era for the Green Bay Packers. Next up are the New York Jets. Now, there's no secret that the Jets really wanted Paul Gruber, offensive tackle, Wisconsin. They have a slight problem because the Buccaneers selected Gruber with the 4th overall pick. So the question now for the Jets, and that's Frank Ramos. Doesn't look like he's listening. Looks like he's listening to his mother-in-law on the phone, the way he's holding it away from his ear. But Frank Ramos, the information director of the Jets, has been there a long time, talking on the phone as Mike Hickey and company in the war room now. Did they go the next offensive lineman, who might be Cadigan from USC, who might be a Moore, who might be a guard, Randall McDaniel from Arizona State? Well, we won't have to wait very long, because I looked over my shoulder. The commissioner already has the transfer. See, what do you think?
Selected in the first round, David Patrick Cadigan.
I think they're going to take David
Southern
Cadigan.
California.
Well, glad I snuck that name in there. So was the next lineman available. They can use help at any of the positions on the offensive line. USC, Dave Cadigan, one of the many USC linemen who in the last 25 years has been named an All-American. In fact, 23 times since '64 an offensive lineman from USC has been named an All-American team. That's not necessarily 23 different players, but 23 times in Cadigan this year was the 23rd instance. Now, Dave Cadigan, who some players wonders him, some teams wonder, even though he's a 280, is he a true tackle type, or could he be a guard?
He's either one. Some teams like him as a tackle, some as a guard. Well, the Jets need an open side tackle, left tackle, because Sweeney is moving back to center. They like Reggie McElroy, their right tackle, and this is what they need. But if he has trouble there, maybe they'll move him to guard. They need a guard, too.
Well, you know, from USC, he knows how to pass.
He's going to be able to pass protect, and I think that's the key. They went for the guy that they thought was going to be able to give the quarterback a little bit more time, and it's a very good choice. I mean, they're doing the specific things. They would have rather had the first lineman, so you take the second guy.
Well, look, the Jets allowed the most sacks in the AFC, 66, which was the second overall in the NFL. So Dave Cadigan, definitely rated next lineman below Gruber, or certainly in the next little group. On Mel's board, he's a little bit below Eric Moore, who Mel talked about slightly before, but you saw the rating. And so the Jets, who have O'Brien, who have Toon, who have Wesley Walker coming back, who have, they hope, a more productive Roger Vick, the first-round draft pick last year, coming out of the backfield, who have a tight end that can catch the ball in Mickey Schuler. Now they have somebody to block for Kenny O'Brien, because it's hard to throw the ball when you're on your, how you say, depth yabs. Now their offensive line last year. Now Sweeney may move into guard. Haight was a first-round pick.
Sweeney's moving to center.
Okay, Sweeney's moving to center. He might move to guard tomorrow. He'll move to center for the start of the season.
He'll have to pass guard to get to center.
That's right. And, of course, Joe Fields is gone. So the Jets certainly drafting for need. They did that a couple of years ago when they had Haight and, Williams, right? But that didn't work. This year they go with Cadigan. He should be a good pick, don't you think, Sim?
Yeah, he can move his feet. He is one of the faster of the offensive tackles on the board. He ran a 4.86 and a 4.92 at the combine workouts. He's smart, and he's a good drive blocker. You know, he's a well-schooled player. The only knocks I heard on him was he wasn't one of these 300-pound hogs. You know, and some teams like the hog type to play their strong side tackle. But he's a polished player.
So the Jets go offensive line. Next up is the Raiders with the their second pick in the first round. But the Jets have selected the Giants are soon. And since we are in New York, we figured we'd go up top because there are a lot of people wearing green and white. And Beano Cook is an immediate hero up in the gallery with the gallery gods. I think Bean can be found somewhere among the Jets fans. He is up trying to sample some opinion. And let's go to Beano and see what those that fought their way under the second floor here at the Marriott Marquis think.
Thank you, Chris. The mystery is why anybody would come out on Sunday to see a draft. We have two doctors, and David and Ken Gannick, and your doctors, you've been coming here for 5 years. Why, David?
Yeah, not only have we been coming, I cut my vacation at Club Med short by 1 day to come back. I flew in at 2 this morning. My brother picked me up. We come because we love it, because we're football fans, and it's like being in a game. There's nothing like being there. Watching on TV is just not the same.
Okay, Ken, are you happy with the pick? I mean,
I think it's a great pick. It gives him the versatility on the offensive line. Jim Sweeney can now move to the center position. We can protect Ken O'Brien, who's been laying on his back for most of the last 2 years. And it'll allow the Jets to really build an offensive line that will allow the defense to stay off the field.
Now, you've been here since 3 a.m. You've come to this thing for 5 years. Why?
It's a lot of fun. It's a natural extension.
You can stay home and watch Chris Berman and ESPN.
Oh, that's fun, too, but there's nothing like here being live speaking to you, Beano.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, back to Chris Berman.
Do you ever notice how Beano only interviews guys that wear number 87? I think there's some other numbers available for the Jets. So they go with Cadigan. The Giants, of course, are the 10th pick. But now we have the Raiders' second selection in the first round. Where they could go, certainly a lot of directions. They perhaps... Well, I don't know, Zim, real quickly, what position are we looking at with the Raiders?
Well, I know who the player is they rate highest now. It's Irvin, but they already picked a wide receiver. Right. They could like Elliott, the big tackle, but they picked Clay last year. They could go defense. I know one newspaper projected Kerwin Bell, the quarterback of Florida, as their first-round pick. Maybe it was Irwin Bell. But it's a mystery. They could go defense. They could go the pass rusher that Mel talked about.
But gee, that's a little high there, isn't it?
Well, they got rid of Sean Jones. I mean, they have a hole to fill. They could go for that kid if they really love him. You know, Al likes those way out defensive linemen that people rate lower. So if I would have to guess, that's who I'd guess, Jones.
What do you think, Tommy? Any thought on where they might go?
I think maybe an offensive lineman, and I think Elliott's one of the better guys that are left, the big, strong Raider-type guy, and I think a lot of times Al Davis is checking attitude of a guy when he gets ready to draft.
So the Raiders, who went receiver first time with Tim Brown, are up next. Let's go over to the big board with Bobby and Mel.
Okay, Chris, Raiders are up. They've got about 9.5 minutes to make that selection. Then, of course, the tension and the screaming will begin once again with the draft mixes. The Giants will make the 10th pick. Raiders have the wide receiver, unlikely to go for a second one. Does that mean that Dallas then makes the deal up to number 10 from number 14 to sit right there and wait for Michael Irvin?
I think the Raiders are going to have to go in two different positions. You look at their offensive line. Granted, they went last year for Wilkerson and Clay, but Eric Moore's an outstanding player, very underrated player. He's one of the best players on the board right now. You can say what you want about Cadigan and McDaniel and Elliott, but Eric Moore right now is the best offensive lineman available. And Zen mentioned the player I talked about earlier, Aaron Jones, one of the fast risers, a meteoric rise as far as draft position is concerned. Forget quarterback as far as needs. Young-blooded linebacker, it's really not a player there worth taking. Cornerback Dixon's gone. We talk about help at the offensive line with Eric Moore. So, you look at their needs. They traded Sean Jones, maybe defensive line. But, I have to believe right now the best players on the board, if you want to sum that up, would be Keith Jackson and Eric Moore at this point. I think, there's no question that they are. And Anthony Miller, don't forget that name, wide receiver from Tennessee. But Keith Jackson and Eric Moore are the two best players available at this point.
The Raiders, of course, one of the two teams in Los Angeles. You said forget about the quarterback problems. They're going to have to address it at some point. Howard Balzer standing by at Rams headquarters. They've got plenty of picks to make. What about the Raiders, Howard?
Well, I think they're pretty upset right now when Dave Cadigan was drafted by the Jets. They really like Cadigan a lot. They had him in for a workout on Friday. Remember in 1983 when the Raiders took Don Mosbar in the first round, also from Southern Cal. They suddenly found out he had back surgery. Mosbar, by the way, recently had his third back surgery in 5 years. So the offensive line is definitely going to be a question mark with the Raiders. There's some people who think they might go for another wide receiver. Michael Irvin is still there. Package him with Tim Brown and then maybe make a trade for Dokie Williams and Jesse Hester. I think the Raiders could go in a lot of different direction. The defensive end, though, don't count out Dan Stubbs. This might be a guy that could really fit in as a pass rusher for the Raiders. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, they have had, the Raiders, Howard, and better success in the second round than they had historically in the first round. Really, if you take a look at what the Raiders have done in the first round in the 1980s, you look at Marcus Allen and Don Mosbar as the only two clear-cut, good, well-drafted, successful players out of the first round for the Raiders. Let's first of all get your thought on a tandem of wide receivers at 6 and 9 for the two selections. You don't see that happening?
Irvin's an outstanding player, and I forgot when I was mentioning the best players on the board. Irvin is without question, and Jackson and Moore and Miller are the best players available at this point. But, you can't, you're looking at a team that has needs, basic needs, and they solved the one position with wide receiver. You talk about Fernandez, you can talk about Lofton all you want. They were fine additions, but they didn't really come through with the kind of production the Raiders had hoped. Lofton showed some progress late, but they really didn't set the world on fire. That's why they went for Brown, the best player available at that point. I think it would be stretching it to say that they would go for Irvin, although you can't count anybody out at this point because, like I say, sooner or later, the best available player comes up. And I mentioned the players, the Jacksons, the Irvins, and the Moores and the Millers, I think are the best players available. And I mentioned Aaron Jones as a reach at this point, but let's face it, he has a chance to be a dominant pass rusher. The guy could be a Richard Dent in 2-3 years down the road. So, Al Davis has a tendency to stretch a little bit. Nobody thought Howie Long was the second year he took him. Nobody thought Sean Jones was the second year he took him. And look what turned out to be there. So, Aaron Jones is a player that Davis covets. He's going to go in the first round.
Historically, they go for offense, though. In the history of the common draft now, some 21, 22 years, they've had 17 first-round picks. 12 of those have been for the offense. That famed passing game that Al loves.
Well, let's face it, if you're going to build around a quarterback, and they talk about Shanahan feeling that in a new system, Wilson might be able to do it. We talked about that on SportsCenter last night. You have to, allow him the time to throw the football because he gets a little jittery when he's pressured. We all know that with Wilson. That's why I think a bookend tackle is a possibility. But like I said, there's a lot of good players still there on the board, and we're getting near the middle of the first round right now.
The huddle begins as the commissioner checks the pick. At some point in time, they're going to have to address the quarterback problem. They are not apparently going to do it at this point on draft day. Here's the Raiders' second first-round selection.
Raiders' first-round selection. Defensive back, Tennessee, Terrence McDaniel. Next up, New York Giants.
That's a reach. We can talk about that.
Terry McDaniel out of Tennessee. Okay, have we seen our first reach of the day?
No question about it. When you look at Terry McDaniel, former wide receiver, came over to cornerback late. Never was really an enforcer against the run. He doesn't have that kind of size. He can run with the fleetest of receivers. He has legitimate 4.35 speed. He had the shoulder popping in and out all year, had the surgery, and when you look at the situation now, he hasn't been able to work out for anybody, and I think this is stretching. They wanted Dixon. They need a cornerback. That's obvious, the problems that they had at that position, but I think this is taking about the 26th, 27th player with the 9th pick is stretching it a bit.
You had him rated, I believe, 28th. He moved up one notch, and of all the teams to reach, you would perhaps least expect the Raiders at this point with 2 early first-round selections. Let's take a look now. Terry McDaniel, quarterback out of Tennessee. First year in school, started out as a redshirt, and actually was a wide receiver. And, of course, you know what they can do with wide receivers at Tennessee as a freshman. Switched over to the quarterback position when he was a sophomore. Had an average junior season, but is an outstanding track athlete. And really had a good year at the cornerback as a senior. Did well in Japan. Had some shoulder surgeries you talked about after the East-West Shrine game, but as you were talking about him in your draft publication, when he's got to go against guys who run a disciplined route, who are well-schooled, precision, class-type receivers, he's had some problems. Your prototypical player, a perfect player, would be a 20.0. Best grade for Terry McDaniel is for quickness. He has outstanding speed. The force is his lowest grade. Grade him out to an 18.4. So you have worked out your grading system. I don't think we've ever given in the many years we've worked together a 20.0, the perfect player grade out, but a little bit on exactly how you grade these players.
Well, you're looking at Terry McDaniel, you're looking at that force ability, and of course his size is a factor, but you mentioned all the negatives about, how he does against, say, an Ernie Jones in the Peach Bowl. Ernie Jones is a precision route runner, spun McDaniel around like a top in that particular game. You match him one-on-one against a Willie Gault, and he's going to blanket Willie Gault because he can run with anybody. He has that legitimate, like I say, 4.35 speed. But I think the fact that Dixon was gone, forced the Raiders to go in this direction. I think, like I say, 27th, 28th player with the 9th pick. They're thinking along this line. I think they were probably afraid of trading down because Philadelphia was rumored to be interested in McDaniel. That was earlier rumor. Now I don't know about that, but I think that's the reason they might have been a little reluctant, because there was a lot of speculation that Buddy Ryan had every intention of making McDaniel the 14th, the 13th pick on round 1.
And if there's going to be an answer to the quarterback question with the Raiders, it may not at this point be coming today. They've lost to other tradability at 6 and 9. Raiders going in the first round for Tim Brown in the 6th hole, the wide receiver out of Notre Dame, and now, as Mel called it, the first reach of the day, Terry McDaniel, defensive back out of Tennessee, ranked 28th, 29th on a depth chart, going in the 9th position. So a shocker, Chris.
A shocker, yes, Bob, in some ways. A shocker, no, in other ways. It depends which way you look at it. I will tell you this about Terry McDaniel. He had what's called a posterior dislocation of the shoulder. I do know that there is nobody now playing in the NFL that had that sort of surgery done currently playing in the NFL. It doesn't mean it can't be done, but that's why some teams who liked him before he had to have that type of surgery really backed off. Others, you get 28 doctors' opinions, they look at it and they don't care. Let's look at their defensive backfield, and of course you talk about Hayes and Haynes. You figure, why would they ever have to draft another DB? Well, age creeps up on all of us. Michael Haynes was hurt a lot last year. Lionel Washington, 5-year veteran, didn't really step in the way they thought that he would. Lester Hayes, of course, a shadow of his former self, which is pretty outstanding. And Dr. Z, it is a reach, but when you have 2 first-round picks and one you go with a known quantity to a Tim Brown, and we're all befuddled as to what they might do, they address the need. Do you think it's a good pick?
I think it's a terrific pick. In their system, they make their cornerbacks do tougher things than any other team in football. And they're kidding themselves if they expect a Lionel Washington to play in that kind of defense, because he hasn't been schooled that way. Hayes and Haynes were perfect, but they're getting old. Now they've got a guy who they can plug in. Of course, now they need one on the other side, but maybe they can get away with some combination there. As we said before, when you got 2 picks high, you go for the athlete the first time, you go for need the second, and I think this is a terrific pick. I love the way Terry McDaniel covers.
What about him, Tommy? Is this a good move for the Raiders?
I think certainly, as he says, at the Raider organization, you have to be able to cover well. And I think as far as run support, they don't ask them to do as much. No. Run support-wise, because they always have the great defensive ends to support the outside run. So this kid can run and he can cover the shoulder injury. Whatever happens with it won't bother him as much as it would normally on another team.
So the last time the Raiders went in the first round for a defensive back was '81 with Ted Watts. Now they go with their second pick in the first round, the 9th overall selection, Terry McDaniel, cornerback from Tennessee. The Giants are the next team that's up, and that's why the buzzing is going on above us here as we are at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York. The first round underway in the NFL, and we'll be back.
Can't decide what car or truck to buy? Come to Miranda Chevrolet. We've got the answer. We've got over 250 new cars and trucks in stock and ready for immediate delivery. Plus, you can get up to $1,200 off on selected models, and we have special finance plans, too. Looking for a new van, new truck, or new car? Come to Miranda Chevrolet. We've got a great selection in stock right now. Plus, we have great deals and great prices at Miranda Chevrolet, Route 73 in Berlin. Miranda Chevrolet, the heartbeat of South Jersey.
Stop. Most accidents on underground installations have been caused by careless digging by both contractors and homeowners. Before you dig or you have a contractor dig, find out what facilities are underground. It's the only way you can prevent property damage, interruption of service, personal injury, and avoid lawsuits. Call this number in New Jersey 72 hours before you dig. If there are facilities in your digging area, they will be located and marked for you. The call is free and the service is free. In New Jersey, call 1-800-272-1000. Call before you dig. It's the law.
First round. Indiana tackle, Eric Moore. Next up, Dallas Cowboys.
And so the Giants addressing what they need. Brad Benson has retired at tackle. Carl Nelson making his courageous comeback from Hodgkin's disease, the other tackle. And so they definitely needed a tackle. They would have loved if Gruber was there, but of course he was gone to Tampa Bay. They go with the big kid from Indiana, Eric Moore. We thought maybe it would be Elliott, but Zim Moore, certainly this is a draft for need for the Giants. And keep in mind, the Giants drafting with the 10th overall pick. Sure, they had a bad record last year, but because they finished 5th in their division, they get the 5th place schedule. It won't take much for them to shoot way back up in the charts. Moore, a good selection?
Well, the only other team that liked him this high, high first round was San Diego. I didn't hear great things about him from other teams. I heard great things about Elliott, but Elliott is a strong side tackle. He's a right tackle. The Giants need a left tackle definitely, and it depends on whether Carl Nelson comes back. If Nelson doesn't come back right away, then they need 2 tackles because they're kidding themselves if they think William Roberts can make it.
Well, that's who they had there last year, and so they hope that Eric Moore can step right in. Now, last year, the Giants went 1, 3, 4 wide receivers, so it's Michael Irvin's misfortune, really. He would have been this might have been the ideal year for them to go wide receiver. They just could not do that.
Dallas for Michael Irvin.
Oh, yeah. You marked that one right down.
Mark that down.
Dallas is 4 teams from the NFC East are picking here in a row. We have the Giants, and then we have the Dallas Cowboys with the next selection, and then the Phoenix Cardinals. Doesn't that sound funny to say? The Phoenix Cardinals, and then the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think we can write Irvin down for the Cowboys. But let's talk about Eric Moore here and where he fits in for the Giants. And big kid, 285 pounds, 6'5", from Indiana, was a team leader this season. He's a pro-style pass blocker, has agility, balance, good feet, which is why he has not that much of a problem handling the real fast defensive ends. And of course, when they go up against Washington twice a year, there's a team with fast defensive ends.
And he's got those great long arms that you can use to pass protect since holding's legal in the NFL now.
Spoken like a true defensive player. He's got to go up against the fast defensive ends of Washington. You got the Minister of Defense in Philadelphia. So Eric Moore, if he sets in, will get a fiery baptism in the NFL playing in the NFC East. And there are his ratings at 18.8. What do the gallery gods think about this selection for the Giants? Certainly the position wasn't a surprise, but was the individual. Let's go to Bino.
Back here at the balcony with the real crazy fans, Renee Riquelme. Do you like the choice of Eric Moore for the Giants?
I'm not too sure about Eric Moore. I seen him one time and I wasn't totally crazy about him, to be honest with you. But I'm sure the Giants know what they're doing, and they've done, good so far. So I can't really second guess them without more information, that I had.
That's nice that you don't second guess them, considering they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, George Young. But I'm curious, this is your 8th draft. You've been here since 5 a.m. and your wife had a baby 2 weeks ago. How did you get out, and when do the divorce proceedings start?
Well, I tell you, I was going to make my baby hardship, maybe go in the 12th round or something like that, but you can't do that. No, my wife understands that I love, football.
But you love the Giants. Is it better or for worse, but the Giants first?
Well, I made that clear before I married her.
Okay, you're a Giant fan first and a husband second, a father third. Okay, back to Chris Berman.
All right, Bino, thank you very much. The Dallas Cowboys are up next, and it's as we said, it's got to be Michael Irvin, and we shall see. Let's go to the podium. The commissioner has the card. Zim says it could be Elliott. I got to think it's Irvin.
I like Irvin. Irvin or Elliott.
Because of the injury to Sherrard. Well, we'll see in 10 seconds.
Dallas Cowboys select on the first round Marshall Irvin, wide receiver, Miami.
Michael Irvin.
Next up, James Carter.
Commissioner having the problems that some of us always do when we have to speak. The old frog in the throat. But in Michael Irvin, they have a sure shot pro, a guy that can step right in and be a star there. He is the tallest of all these receivers that we were talking about at 6'2". Bigger size than a Sharp, than a Brown. Will they look good in Cowboy colors, Tommy?
It certainly is. It's a great pick, a best athlete that was still out there. I think they would have liked to have had an offensive lineman, but they decided on Irvin, and he'll help them out a lot.
Got to do it, right, Tim?
Yeah, Irvin had a great workout for Paul Hackett. The only thing that made me back off a little bit is that everybody seemed to know that they liked him, and usually the Dallas smokescreens a lot. I know they like him, and I know they like Elliott, the big tackle who's an Erkenbeck, who's their line coach. He's his type.
Well, they certainly, they've got a guy now. They can decide who exactly the quarterback is. If it's Danny, is it Pelor? Joe Theismann has rejoined us, and a kid like Irvin can make a lot of things happen, especially with the unfortunate, the broken leg, and then the re-injury to Sherrard, their top pick a couple of years ago. They had to go back to receiver.
You're absolutely right, Chris. And particularly the situation with Sherrard. The Cowboys have had no speed at wide receiver. They're in a division where they're going to have to put points on the board. Their defense is very suspect because of age. So offensively, they're forced into a situation to try and do things better. You mentioned about Paul Hackett. You think about where he came from in the San Francisco system. You have to have that receiver that can get the job done for you. Irvin will provide that for him.
Let's take a look at Michael Irvin, as many defensive backs got a good view of the back of his jersey this year. Michael Irvin, as we mentioned, at 6'2", the biggest of these receivers, could have played another year, but decided to come out, had the 1 year left of eligibility. Now, some people, Tommy, say he's a little bit of a hot dog, that he's cocky. Does that bother you?
No, I was a kind of a hot dog myself when I played.
You?
Yeah, every now and then. I think this kid's so enthusiastic, and that's contagious. I mean, that's a bonus that you get besides getting a great athlete.
So Michael Irvin goes right to the Dallas system. He should be featured in their offense, an offense that, with Herschel Walker there, has a lot of defenders worrying about Herschel. That might clear the ground for Irvin.
What's interesting about it, Tommy mentioned a very interesting point about Irving's enthusiasm. The Dallas Cowboys have not been known for enthusiasm through the years. They're a very subdued, very professional group. I wonder how a young man with effervescence is going to fit in to this straight-laced, let's not exactly jump up and down type of a situation. It may be contagious. It may be very good for the Cowboys overall.
I tell you what, when you're 7 and 8, you can try something new, and maybe a little enthusiasm would help the Cowboys a little bit. And so they go with Irvin, and so we've seen our 3 outstanding receivers go, but we still have Anthony Miller. We still have Aaron Cox. Those 2 guys are wide receivers that will go in the first round. 2 more NFC East teams are up next, the Cardinals and then the Eagles, but the Cowboys have just made their pick, and at Irving is Bob Chandler, a guy who knows a bit about wide receivers. Let's join him and Coach Landry. Hello, Bob.
Thank you, Chris. Coach, you have to feel very pleased that Irvin was available at this time.
Yeah, we are really pleased. About everybody picked him for us, so it's not a surprise to anybody. We need a wide receiver. We need a receiver of his caliber, and we're just delighted to have him.
You know, he shows a lot of enthusiasm, and in fact, some people call him quite cocky. That's not the Dallas image. Are you going to be able to control that, or do you want to?
Oh, I don't think he's that bad. I think he shows a lot of enthusiasm, and he loves to play the game, and that's what it's all about.
Well, congratulations on a very solid pick.
Thank you very much.
Okay, back to you, Chris.
All right, Bob and Coach Landry, thanks. And so next up, the team with the, well, I tell you what, the rock group, question mark, and the Mysterians might surround the St. Louis, now Phoenix Cardinals, because you never know what they are going to do. I personally thought that if Stouffer, they didn't make the deal with the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to let Stouffer go back in the draft, use this pick to draft Stouffer, pay him less money. You never know if that could have happened.
I think what's going to happen now is the running back stampede.
Yes.
There are going to be a lot of them drafted, and now you're going to see them come storming in. We've all projected different people, Muster or Lorenzo White, Gaston Green maybe, but now is the time for the running backs.
And here they come. Get out of the way, because here come the backs. Mel Kiper and Bob Lee over at the big board. Who should the first back be?
Interesting question. Do you think Muster goes to the Cardinals?
It's hard. Well, Muster's ankle was a problem this year. You talk about Hayward. The Rams are sitting there anxious to see Hayward still there. And, of course, Gaston Green's also a possibility. And, of course, Buddy Ryan has to be very excited right now, Bob. Last year he thought he stole a Jerome Brown with that pick. Now he sees the top tight end to come out in recent years, and Keith Jackson's still there. Will provide Randall Cunningham a weapon to go with Quick and Byers and Tony. This Philadelphia Eagle team can make some noise in that division next year if, in fact, they can add a Keith Jackson to the arsenal.
Cardinals draft history has been rated R for rotten. They have not drafted well. Last couple of years, they've had 8 blue-chip picks, and they have gotten not much out of it. Let's go back. This is the 1980s. We talk about the blue-chip selections in the first 2 rounds. They've gotten only 50% starters out of that. 4 of them with other clubs. 2 of them are out of football. And what they've done over the last 4 years, in the last 4 drafts, of course, not counting this season, in the first or second round, Mel, they've only gotten 2 starters. Now, people like to gang up on the front office and the indecision that cost them Stouffer, the lack of negotiating position, perhaps, and also the scouting system for the St. Louis Cardinals is much criticized.
Well, they reached for a lot of players. You're talking about an Anthony Bell who went with the 5th pick in the first round. Should have been a 3rd round choice. Stauffer, we didn't criticize Kelly Stauffer. We criticized the fact, you know, that Woodson was there and Jerome Brown was there last year. Now you look at this selection, they need a back. There's no question about that. Farrell's coming off the injury. Stump Mitchell, you know, has been around. He's taken a beating. He's really had to force to take a load, carry the load when he hasn't been able to do it. And when you look at the backs that are there, John Stevens, I think, is really the most underrated back in the draft. Green, the durability question. White, the breakaway speed question. Muster coming off that ankle. Of course, Hayward with the fluctuality with the weight. I really think right now, you know, if I was making this selection for the Cardinals, I would select John Stevens. I don't know what the Cardinals will do. I'm not about to try to figure it out, but I would take John Stevens with this choice.
All right. They also need some help on the defensive line. Let's see what the specific needs are for the Phoenix Cardinals, about to make their first selection in Phoenix. Yes, they need some help with defensive tackle. They play the 4-3. They need some help at the corner position. The safeties are okay. Who couldn't use a young wide receiver and help on the right side of the offensive line? But here they are about to make their first selection. We were talking about this last night. People in Phoenix certainly were in the running for an expansion team, and if you wanted to be especially cruel, you could say maybe they've gotten one. But no, they were very close late in the season into making the playoffs, and Gene Stallings' team was in it down to the last week of the season. It was a bizarre season, the 1987 regular year, but this is always an interesting moment in the first round of the draft when the Cardinals have to make their selection. We have seen the one so-called reach so far with Terry McDaniel going in the 9th selection to the Raiders. Well, it is a very festive day in Phoenix. They have their team. They have their very first draft selection to come. There's a big party at the Hyatt, and Roger Twyble, a party animal, if ever there was one, is there. Raj?
Thank you very much, Bob. We are at the Hyatt here in Phoenix, and for the next 2 days, the local radio and TV station are sponsoring a party for the Cardinal fans as they get ready for their first-round selection. Consensus is that it will probably be Brad Muster, the Stanford running back. It was interesting on a local show last night. Former Colts and Arizona State coach Frank Kush says this Brad Munster, no relation to Herman and Eddie, but anyway, very impressive athlete, and a lot of folks down here feel that'll be the first pick. But it's been a very low-key Cardinal organization so far. The reason for that is that there is a lawsuit taking place concerning season tickets for this upcoming year. Now, the best we can tell you is that the Cardinals have an office in Tempe, but they have an unlisted phone number. There are no signs saying exactly where they're at, and consequently, it's been a very low-key Cardinal organization here in the Valley of the Sun. The reason is an outfit called Seats, Sports Fans for Equal Access to Ticket Selection, has filed a lawsuit concerning season tickets. Now, essentially, what is happening down here is the Cardinals will be playing at Arizona State at Sun Devil Stadium, and of course, the Arizona Outlaws, formerly of the USFL, played there. Consequently, what has happened with the deal with Arizona State, and of course the fans here don't like that, they love the NFL, but 55,000 season ticket holders for Arizona State University are going to have right of first refusal for tickets next year, and then some 11,800 Outlaw season ticket holders are also going to have right of first refusal. So there has been a lawsuit filed. It has been stayed until May the 2nd when a decision will come down. But for next year, the 55,000 season ticket holders for Arizona State football will have first crack at the season tickets for the Cardinals playing in 70,000-seat Sun Devil Stadium. And, of course, we'll be reporting back to you later on. A lot of local players here, including Randall McDaniel, will be coming down after they're selected, and we hope to talk to them. Let's go to Chris Berman.
All right, Roger, thank you. And the Cardinals have are about ready to make their selection in the first round. Running back of their choice, Zim?
Brad Mustard from Stanford.
You like Mustard?
We both agree. Yeah, Brad Mustard.
They have smaller type backs like Stump and Farrell, Mustard or Stevens, a bigger guy.
They need the fullback.
Here it is.
The Phoenix Cardinals, first-round pick, Kenneth Harvey, linebacker, California.
I told you.
Or Ken Harvey.
Or Ken Harvey, correct.
Philadelphia Eagles.
They're going to convert him to a running back, right? Ken Harvey, outside linebacker, California. And yeah, they project him as a running back. And so, whereas I'm not sure that you can classify this as a reach because he is a first-round player, the stampede on the running backs will hold off just a little bit. Of course, this is a team that picked Bell, the outside linebacker, Anthony Bell, a few years ago. But Harvey is a known quantity, but certainly not the running back that you thought. Now, at outside linebacker, E.J. Jr. certainly is not the player that he once was for the Cardinals. So it certainly is a position they can use some help at, but you figured with your choice of running backs, that might be what they would do. But the Cardinals, at least remembering their heritage, certainly in recent years, throw the curve.
Well, it wasn't Larry Stallings' pick. In fact, they don't even show him the choices. They make him sit in another room, and they don't give him any water or coffee or anything. They shut the air conditioning off. It's a tough organization.
Tommy, outside linebacker. I mean, you like all those guys, don't you?
Well, I think they had weaknesses at all their linebacker spots, and it's not a bad choice. I had him down, actually, believe this, fans, as my second choice. But, yeah, I thought they would go for the running back instead.
Wait a minute.
There it is, Ken Harvey.
I can't.
Linebacker.
Chris, did I say Larry Stallings? It was Gene Stallings. What's the matter with me?
It's a long day, Jim.
Tough.
Joe, on Harvey, good move, or should they have gone the back?
No, I think they've got backs. I think Farrell come back healthy, Mitchell come back healthy. They're pretty satisfied there. Again, because you have to think of what's in the draft. There are a lot of good running backs. They're probably going to get a shot at a running back coming up to help them. They're only looking for help. They're not looking for immediate fill. So if they're looking for background support, they can afford to take the need. You got to remember, Gene Stallings is a defensive type of coach, okay? He coached the secondary. He handles that defense. So obviously, maybe he doesn't have as much input into the draft as we might like to think. But I think in this instance, as opposed to last year's Kelly Stouffer pick, he's getting what he wants now. He's getting some defensive help.
You can only hope that they can sign him. Of course,
that's the big question.
They should be able to do that.
That's the question.
Outside linebacker from California, Ken Harvey. Let's take a look at him in action. Harvey is the type of guy at 6'2", at 227. Very impressive physical player, physical specimen. If you want to put everybody into the tank and see what sort of fat ratio you have, 7% body fat, if you believe in that kind of stuff, well, they've got a guy that, I don't know, you can throw all these statistics out. Can he play? Yes. Does he have the natural instincts that Aundray Bruce has at the outside linebacker position? Maybe some teams have a question, but as a pure athlete, broad jumper, with speed, he can make things happen from the outside. And the Cardinals, certainly, when you play that type of lineup in a 3-4 system, outside linebacker is a position that you must use. And so you look at the ratings. The best part about Harvey is the quickness. So a surprise.
Well, see, it is a surprise, but Gene Stallings is a 4-3 man.
Right.
I think you're going to see the Cardinals. They went to 3-4 because they have no pass rushers. I mean, their defensive line was almost non-existent. Now what they got to do is they're going to try and fill, I think, with some defensive linemen, but they've got to get those linebackers that can play the 4-3 defense. That's where Stallings really wants to go, I think, with his concept.
All right, Jim?
I think they need down linemen, pass rushers. if they're making a need pick, they ought to go with somebody, one of these projections like Jones or somebody maybe a little lower down that can fill that position if you're going with need. They don't need a linebacker as much as they need a down lineman.
They've drafted guys like this, a guy they think that can rush the passer. Freddie Joe Nunn a couple of years ago, but again, there's an up-type guy. And can Harvey do it, rushing the passer?
Well, I think he certainly has the physical tools to do it, and that 7% body fat will come in handy when it's about 105 degrees at night in Phoenix.
That's true. Anybody who doesn't have 7% body fat will have it by the end of the season in Phoenix as they play in 110 degrees. The Eagles are next as the run in the NFC East continues. We're back in a moment.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set on you. I got my mind.
Want anything?
How about a light?
Whoa.
Oh, Bob, could you make that a Bud Light?
If you want the great taste of Bud Light, ask for it.
Did you see? No.
Did you? No. Bud Light. Because everything else is just a light. After rigorous examination of the Mercedes-Benz 300e, one automotive journal concluded that it may be the best sedan in the world, and another journal called it a nearly spectacular mix of performance and practicality, the Mercedes-Benz 300e. Now that it's astonished the experts, let it astonish you.
1982, Benny Parsons breaks the 200-mile-per-hour mark. 1984, Johnny Rutherford is the first driver to reach 215 miles per hour. 1985, Bill Elliott becomes the Winston $1 Million winner. 1987, Alain Prost breaks Jackie Stewart's longtime winning record with his 28th win. If there's a record to be broken, you'll see it on ESPN's Auto Racing. Over 1 million miles of racing experience on ESPN.
ESPN's coverage of the 1988 NFL Draft is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. By The Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. When you need us most, we're at our best. And by BVD Underwear. America, do it better. Do it in your BVDs.
Our coverage of the draft continues for the 9th consecutive year from New York City. In company with Mel Kiper, I'm Bob Lee, and plenty of us on hand to keep you updated where we stand now midway through round number 1. We've just seen Ken Harvey, linebacker out of California, taken by Phoenix. Certainly it's going to be easier for the Cards to sign a linebacker than it would have been to sign a running back. The clock's running on Philadelphia, Mel. They've got 7.5 minutes to go. The Eagles are up, followed by the Rams, who then go with 5 of the next 34 selections, and then San Diego. First, Buddy Ball. Where does Buddy go?
I'd have to go Keith Jackson. I think, like we talked about before, he's the best player. I think Buddy's fortunate to see a Keith Jackson still here. Naturally, a cornerback like an Eric Allen, but that's forcing a need again, which I think the Raiders did. You go down to the L.A. Rams, Craig Hayward, perfect in Robinson's situation there. He needs to carry the load. He's an outstanding receiver as well. He'll give Everett that, a team with Everett to form an unstoppable combination when you consider Everett's passing ability. Now Hayward can get you that short yardage. You go down to San Diego, they're switching to a one-back offense. they're going to go with Bernstein and Winslow at tight end. They want to move Gary Anderson to wide receiver. And I think a Gaston Green at that point with his quickness, I think would be a pretty wise choice. So it looks like Jackson, and you go to the next choice. It has to be Hayward and then Gaston Green. The one player still there that's almost like a wild card now because he could be the best player on the board at some point is Anthony Miller. But I think right now Jackson, Hayward, Green, bang, 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 1, 2, 3 here.
3 skill positions in the next 3 selections. It all depends what happens in Philadelphia where Pete Axthelm is standing by at the vet. Let's see what Buddy Wall will select. Pete?
Bob, we're waiting for the Eagles to come down with a decision here, and an interesting thing that's developed, 2 of the choices have brought big reactions from the Eagle coaching staff watching the choices. One was when the Raiders took Terry McDaniel. They were very disappointed. They wanted Terry McDaniel. He was penciled into this spot. The second thing was when the Cardinals took Kenneth Harvey. It was jubilation here. They have Kenneth Harvey rated very low, as do several other people I've talked to. Let's go back to New York.
My goodness, Axe, you were quick. Here are the Eagles pick with the commissioner.
Eagles, first selection. Keith Jackson, tight end, Oklahoma.
Whoa,
LA Rams.
Nelly. What a choice the Eagles have, huh?
Keith, I'm simply amazed.
Well, the Eagles figure that that's no fumble. Not at all, because you suggested that when we tried to put him with the Packers, that if the Packers didn't, that perhaps that the Eagles would get him. Now, they had John Spagnuolo at that position and Jimmy Giles, 2 veteran tight ends, but in Keith Jackson, a guy that certainly at Oklahoma wasn't in a pro-type offense in which he was used a lot to go after the pass. But now, think of all the players in skill positions, Z and Tommy, that the Eagles have. You've got a Randall Cunningham at quarterback. They hope to get the full year out of Byers at running back, and they have some others there. You have your receivers. You have Mike Quick, the perennial Pro Bowler. You have your Kenny Jackson. You have Chris Carter waiting in the wings. Maybe he's doing that too. And now you have Keith Jackson. Great athletes at the skill positions now for the Eagles.
Yeah, that was one direction they could have gone. Buddy actually didn't think he was going to get him. He was talking about Eric Allen or Terry McDaniel. He said, but if Keith Jackson is there, I've got to take him. He's just too much talent to pass up, but how is he going to be there at this pick? I said, Buddy, we don't project him to anybody else. And so, he indicated that he was going to take him.
And so Buddy Ryan gets Keith Jackson. Let's take a look at him in action. Like we said, because he plays at Oklahoma, wasn't used as much as he would have been if he was a tight end in, let's say, your classic Pac-10 type passing situation. But Keith Jackson, by far and away, the top-rated tight end in this draft. And Tommy, can he make it big?
Well, I think this kid's going to be a big home run threat. Questionable how well he can really catch the ball. But on those few occasions, I think 2 receptions a game at Oklahoma that they threw him the football, he always managed to get it and put it away.
Keith Jackson, a guy who can block because of his size, a guy who can go out and catch the ball, and so immediately he will be used because with Randall Cunningham at the control and the way he ad-libs at quarterback and scrambles around, and a tight end with some speed, he could be a perfect pick for the Eagles. There's his rating at 19.0, and one of the most respected evaluators of talent in the league, New England's Dick Steinberg, talks about Keith Jackson.
Is the prototype tight end. He's big, he can block, he can get deep and take the pressure off your wide receivers, double coverage-wise. The only shortcoming is he's never really been featured as a receiver. I mean, he's caught as many passes in an entire season as you would like a tight end to catch in one game.
So the only question is, does he immediately flow into a pro set, or does that take a while, Tommy, coming out of school that doesn't feature you?
I think many times you get those guys in college and they're not used to catching the football because they haven't had it thrown to them a lot. But the few times that I've watched Keith Jackson play football, he was able to catch the ball, and I think that a lot of people looked at that. Natural talent, throwing the ball enough, you'll learn.
He will learn. And the Eagles, so Buddy, here's his defensive. He's stocking up on the offense. I guess he'll get his defensive players a little later.
Yeah, in answer to what Steinberg said about his low production, Billy Sims had 6 passes thrown to him at Oklahoma, and then he regularly cranked out 50 and 60 a year for the Lions.
So we have now had our run on the NFC East. We have yet to have our run on the running backs. 3 wide receivers taken, 3 offensive linemen, 3 defensive backs, a pair of linebackers, 1 defensive lineman, and now 1 tight end. And as we go over to Bob Lee and Mel Kiper, we were wondering whether perhaps 7 or 8 running backs will go in the first round. Well, now they're going to have to go pretty quickly.
Yeah, but if with us a couple of minutes ago, you heard this gentleman who picked Keith Jackson on the nose, of course, going to the Eagles, said that the next 2 selections could be running backs. The Rams, the Rams, when they made the deal, the Dickerson deal, the 3-way deal involving Bennett, made a conscious decision. We want the draft picks. We want to select the warm bodies and work for them from the rookie stage on. All right, now the pressure is on.
Well, he has to produce, and I think he knew going in what kind of draft this was going to be. And he needed to keep the choices rather than trade them away. He needed to solve needs at a number of positions, one being wide receiver. Of course, the retirement of Ron Brown adds to that. And running back. Craig Hayward, I think, would be a real good choice here because of the fact he can do so much damage in that one-back offense because of his ability to catch the ball and run with it as well with power, which I think complements Jim Everett tremendously.
Okay, it's the first time in the 80s the Rams have had multiple selections in the first round. The card is on the way up to the podium. The Rams will have 5 of the next 34 selections, 2 in the first round, 3 in the second round. And after the Rams, San Diego is up. You've been saying running back.
I think running back, I think Hayward and Gaston Green will go in this general area. And, of course, Anthony Miller is another great player. But I'd say Hayward, then Green. And, of course, we always have to consider Miller as a wild card at this point.
Consultation continues. Craig Hayward, if it is Craig, out of the University of Pittsburgh. Double check that pronouncer, of course. San Diego to be followed by Miami. This will be the 14th
Rams
selection.
select. Running back, UCLA, Gaston Green.
It is a running back.
San Diego.
It's not Ironhead. It's Gaston Green from UCLA. And so San Diego now has the option of taking Ironhead if they like him.
I think San Diego might go for Brad Muster or Lorenzo White at this point. I think when you look at Muster, the kind of damage he can do, we're talking about that one-back offense, but, Hayward's a possibility as well. This is a Hayward, Muster, Lorenzo White for that one-back offense. We're talking about San Diego going with Bernstein and Winslow at that tight end spot, moving Anderson outside. I think now you're going to see these running backs come off the board right and left because we got the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting there 18th that also need backs as well. So I think there's no question about it that you're going to see running backs fall dramatically. We still may have 5 or 6 going round one.
It turned into a Merrill Lynch commercial with a stampede of Buffaloes, except it's a stampede for the running back. Let's take a look at Gaston Green, selected by the Rams at the first of their 2 selections in this first round. Gaston Green, the 14th selection overall out of UCLA, has single-season record holder for the Bruins, the all-time record holder for the Bruins. When you consider some of the people that played there, like Freeman McNeil and Wendell Tyler and Theodis Brown, that is saying something. Had a pinched nerve back in late October, then some hamstring problems that kept him out of the Aloha Bowl, and he only caught some 8 passes in his senior season. So I think, Mel, there might be a question about the endurance factor here.
No question about it. He's missed a lot of practice and playing time. You see the moves here, you see the quickness, but I think the fact that he doesn't like to play with pain, he's missed a lot of time over the years, would downgrade him slightly in my mind. That's why I think John Stevens will turn out to be the most productive back out of this draft, and he doesn't figure to go until maybe the 3rd or 4th as far as running backs are concerned. You see
Perfect
Green,
grade there for the outside speed.
4.29 speed, great outside quickness, catches the football adequately. He's certainly not an outstanding receiver coming out of the backfield. Block, adequate there. Inside, certainly not an inside threat that Hayward would be. He's an outside speed guy, like I say, but durability in my mind dropped his grade down. That's why, like I say, Bob, John Stevens, I think, when you look at underrated backs because of his size and his speed, he has that combination that you look for, and he's an underrated receiver as well. It's going to be a steal for somebody. It might be the Pittsburgh Steelers with that 18th pick. I think the Chargers right now have to look at Muster and White. I think that's the obvious choice here, simply because they have to have a back in that one-back set. And, of course, you look at wide receiver with Anthony Miller, where I'm going to keep mentioning his name because he's an outstanding player.
It's going to be a skill position pick for San Diego. That's your selection.
No question about it.
12:40 remaining on the Charger pick. Gaston Green gets to play in his hometown midway through the first round. Our coverage continues from New York City on a Sunday.
Not just another credit card. It's the exciting new Citibank NFL Visa card that's different from any credit card you've ever carried or seen. It says football is your sport and shows the world your favorite NFL team. For a free 6-month membership, call 1-800-NFL-VISA. Every time you use your card, you earn points you can redeem for free NFL Pro Line gear. And as an NFL Visa card member, you're automatically entered in our Super Bowl 23 sweepstakes. Call 1-800-NFL-VISA and join the team.
The legendary Mercedes-Benz SL Coupe Roadster. To every reason you ever had for wanting to drive it, you can now add one more. A mighty 5.6-liter light alloy V8 engine. 227 horsepower. Infinite driving excitement. the Mercedes-Benz 560 SL.
Don't forget, football's not the only game in town on ESPN tonight. Game 4 of the Adams Division Finals in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens against the Boston Bruins. That's live from the Boston Garden, as the Bruins have lost 18 straight playoff series to the Montreal Canadiens. Try and win. They're up 2 games to 1. And then the next night, on Monday night, the Calgary Flames try and stay alive against the Edmonton Oilers, with the Oilers up 3 games to 0 against the team with the best record in the NHL. That's Monday at 9:30 Eastern Time. And I just wonder from Dr. Z and from Tommy who they think the Calgary Flames are going to pick in the next round.
Brad Mustard.
Okay, there you go. Now, Gaston Green of the Rams. Was that a battle with Robinson and Zampese, Ernie Zampese, the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, Robinson liked the big guy, and his staff loved Gaston Green. They love that speed. They love the things he can do. The only question is, he was nicked up at UCLA. He was a little bit hurt. In that system, you know, you have to carry 20, 25 times. But splitting the job with Charles White or anybody else they plug in there, he can do it. And I think they talked the coach out of Ironhead and into Gaston Green.
They now, Tommy, have USC with Charles White. They got UCLA with Gaston Green. Gaston Green has never really played, as you mentioned, Z, the complete season. Do you like the pick, or do you prefer another back?
I think that has to be the question mark. I thought that it would be Brad Mustard, but I think that you certainly are getting a quality back. I think the question you bring up is, how often will he be on the football field? And when you have to carry the ball as many as 25, 30 times a football game, it could get really touchy.
The San Diego Chargers down the road a piece from the Rams are up next. You mentioned that our run on backs begins right now. Are the Chargers one of them, Dr. Z?
Well, they like Anthony Miller, the wide receiver. They're worried about Muster because of his ankle and because he hasn't worked out. They like Lorenzo White. Steve Wortmeyer told me he's going to be the first back pick. Of course, he wasn't. They like him very much. They could go in that direction, or they could go Elliott, who they feel is strictly a right tackle. He can't play the open side, but they want a right tackle. That's what they want. So I would say one of those 4, and on a flyer, I'll say Elliott.
All right, Tommy, your thoughts on the Chargers?
Well, I think they certainly could use a guy like Muster, and certainly a question mark about his injury, but I think that a kid at that age is able to shake that off, and I think that I'll go with Muster.
Muster is a fullback type that can do some things. It's a little early to start comparing him to a player of the stature of a John Riggins, but he has those moves that not too many big guys have. He comes out of the backfield and catches the ball as well as any guy that size. I'm told since Chuck Muncie was an excellent receiving big type of back. So Muster is a unique type of player in this draft. Maybe he'll go to San Diego. We shall see, as the Chargers, and look over my shoulder, have just under 9 minutes to go to make their first selection. Also word that the Chargers might be looking to move down. We shall see. We haven't had the draft day moves yet. Will the Chargers be the first ones to do some shaking? We'll be back.
Today, you need an insurance company with a firm financial footing, a company with staying power and intelligence to see you through year after year, a company with experience you can count on. You need the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. When you need us most, we're at our best. That's the Hartford difference.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way
sound, but not words.
There's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
It all makes perfect sense. We can transmit sound over the phone. Well, why not pictures?
Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly.
Hi. That sure beats going to the library.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Let's get that other opinion.
Ready, Houston?
Got it, Omaha.
From the beginning, AT&T has been committed to helping the people of the world communicate better.
Thomas, you are late.
Goodbye. Funny how the future seems to repeat itself.
And the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true.
This report details new opportunities in several markets here.
And we'll be arriving in
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, at 200 kilometers, 125 miles per hour for you.
I never would have known. 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Too bad.
you certainly think would go a running back. Back in New York as the 53rd NFL Draft continues, the Chargers, you see the time remaining, just over 6 minutes for the 15th overall selection. I'll take my flyer and say wide receiver Anthony Miller, but we shall see. Let's go now down to Philadelphia, where Pete Axtell was with Buddy Ryan, obviously happy over Keith Jackson. Gentlemen.
You're right, Chris. Coaches are always obviously happy at this time when they get a choice, but the other side, were you surprised and disappointed when the Raiders got Terry McDaniel as the 9th pick?
No, I thought Terry was an excellent player, but if Terry and our guy had been on the board, we would have still taken the tight end. He's a great player. I think one of these guys come out every 10 years, and you can't afford to pass him up where I look at it. We passed up Kevin Winslow one time, and, you know, I could understand that, and I know Buddy Ryan wasn't going to make that mistake. We think we got a great football player that will help put us in the Super Bowl.
How did you look at the 4 picks right in your own division? Dallas, we all knew was going to take Irvin. Then the Cardinals surprised a little bit, Kenneth Harvey, and the Giants with Eric Moore. How do you think this affects what's going on with your division?
Well, I think that the Giants wanted to help their offensive line. I think they did an excellent job doing that. Apparently, St. Louis is not pleased with their linebackers, and Harvey's a great athlete. We were real impressed with his workout at Indianapolis. Of course, the wide receiver going to Dallas, that just makes it that much tougher. They got 2 or 3 guys where you got to worry about instead of Herschel now. So, I mean, I think the old division's going to do well in the drafts, just like it did in the playoffs.
The question with an athlete like Jackson, of course, everything physical, everything you can measure is there, and yet he played for a team that didn't throw. How can you be confident that he will be another Winslow type of athlete?
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. Most college teams don't throw that much, and he's a great blocker. He's got great speed. He adjusts the balls well. When he runs a football, he runs it better than most backs do on reverses and things. So he's just a great pick, and he's our starting tight end right now. And his position's his. He just got to lose it.
I heard some of the assistant coaches as you were getting ready to make the pick, they were saying, get ready to start diagramming some tight end reverses.
That's right. We're going to feature him.
Okay, thank you, buddy. Back to you in New York, Chris.
All right, Axel, buddy, thank you very much. And so maybe the next round, Philadelphia goes with defensive help. I'll take my flyer now, 26 rounds early. Michael Brim, maybe, if he's around DB.
Eric Allen, if he's around.
Okay. You're on record.
And we agree on Anthony Miller for the Chargers, right?
What? Am I going to lend you that one now?
Did I say Elliott 10 minutes ago?
I thought you said Elliott.
Yeah, I think I've come off.
Well, I said it's Anthony Miller. We shall see, because the Chargers, of course, with a new quarterback now, the Fouts era is long gone. The Chargers, with Mark Malone, a quarterback. It's funny, while we talk San Diego, perhaps Malone's best day last year was against San Diego. Tom, you remember that? He looked like Bronco Nagurski running the ball that day.
Well, he might be a better running back than a quarterback. It's still under question, but I think certainly you are the guru.
I don't know.
And Anthony Miller
we'll see.
is maybe the guy.
We'll see. And Anthony Miller, who is, we hope to be hooking up with him when he goes, and he will go shortly. Another one of those Tennessee receivers, that's for sure. So San Diego, like we say, Dr. Zim, he's with Malone. I mean, they're going a totally different way. But with Anthony Miller, you can't pass up his value.
Al Saunders at the league meetings said that there are 5 to 6 wide receivers, any of whom would be a good first pick for him. They wanted Eric Moore, the tackle. They felt that they needed a right tackle. Eric Moore was gone. It was a choice. Do they go with the coach, give him his wide receiver, or do they try and get a big guy who will play many years? And I think the coach has won it, and I think Miller is going to be their guy. Well, I agree with you. Mainly because we both know.
But I said it before we knew. With Charlie Joyner as an assistant coach, he certainly can pass along some of the tools of the trade. If it is Miller, let's go over to the board. As the Chargers are certainly getting their money's worth with this pick, they're spending all 15 minutes.
Yeah, spending off 15 minutes. They've dropped a dime, too. We understand that Anthony Miller has gotten that phone call already. So the word that we have, and it's unofficial, is that already the Chargers have made the call to Anthony Miller, and he's in Phoenix with his agent Bruce Allen at a gathering. And Anthony Miller, there he is, Anthony. Hello, Anthony, and we'll be getting to you shortly. Apparently already, Anthony, if you can hear it, have you gotten the call yet? I guess you can't hear the monitor there. A wide receiver out of Tennessee. So if it is Anthony Miller, Steve Ortmeyer putting the pieces together, shaking a few things up in the front office and trying to get the Chargers back on track in the front office.
Well, he needs a wide receiver. We talked about that one-back offense, but when you look at Gary Anderson, you know, you're talking about a guy who also is a running back converted to wide receiver. And when you look at Anthony Miller, we talked about him having 10th on the board. We were talking about him going in this general area because he turned out to be the best player available. So you have to agree with this pick 100%. Anthony Miller will be a big play home run threat for the San Diego Chargers. But right now you have to say quarterback. If they can solve that problem, Miller can be a lot more effective.
It's like betting on yesterday's wood. Anthony's on the phone. Hi, Anthony, and we'll be getting the pick announced in just a second. A dead lead pipe cinch certainty, we assume. Miami will be up next to be followed by New England, and this is the 15th pick in the first round. And, of course, you talk wide receivers out of Tennessee. You're talking just blue chip selections through the years.
Well, they have disappointed some of the wide receivers from Tennessee, but they've been coming out with their heralded coming out.
San Diego selects Anthony Miller, wide receiver, Tennessee.
As Claude Rains said in Casablanca, I'm shocked to see that gambling is going on in this casino. And he's getting the word now. Well, there have been some disappointments, though, out of the Volunteers, but Stanley Morgan, though, Willie Galt, Tim McGee, wouldn't call him disappointment.
Clyde Duncan, you know, was at this point Darrell Wilson, Mike Miller. Those were the three that were really disappointments. But one thing Anthony Miller has that some of the other disappointments didn't was that toughness, and I think that's the key here. He will come across, catch in traffic. He'll take that reverse wide receiver screen, and he'll go attack. He won't just go out of bounds when he sees some defenders coming up to hit him. So, you know, his toughness, I think if he would have played the whole year instead of going down with that injury early on, which sidelined him until maybe midway through the season, I think he could have very easily been a top 5 to 8 pick instead of a mid-first round choice.
Let's graphically put him under the microscope. Grade him out and take a look at the selection of San Diego. Anthony Miller, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Outstanding speed. Yeah, 4.40. In fact, he ran under 4.4 at the combines. Came out of the junior college ranks in California, and as a junior averaged nearly 19 yards per reception. Outstanding kickoff return, Matt, as well, giving a team, now the San Diego team, an extra dimension. Had the injury in that kickoff classic of his senior year and missed half the season, but gives you that dimension. Not only can he catch the football, but as we alluded to in the conversation with Buddy Ryan about Keith Jackson, with that kind of size and speed, certainly, and really speed for Anthony, reverses and screens. He gives you that extra added dimension. Best grade is for quickness. Lowest grade is for blocking. You don't want a guy 5'11" blocking. You want him catching and running.
Well, we saw the big playability on that highlight film. Everything was a big play, and I think when you see an Anthony Miller, a guy who can be that home run threat, in the Senior Bowl, he blew past Jarvis Williams like he was standing still, and I think scouts realized then that Jarvis might have to move to safety. But I think it was also a credit to Anthony Miller, a guy who can really blow past people. He regained that 4.38 speed, so even after the injury, he didn't lose any speed. He ran a 4.38 at the combine, which was outstanding when you consider he missed some time and was recuperating. So I think the fact that he didn't lose any of that quickness contributed to him going at this point. But like I said, Bob, if he would have played the whole year, had more production, I think he would have been a top 5 to 8 pick and been considered a franchise guy in a class with the top 3.
Do you make Mark Malone a better quarterback?
He can't hurt, but, you know.
No, he can't hurt. But will he make him a better quarterback?
I can't say. Right now, I'd say that the San Diego Chargers hunt for a quarterback has to continue.
You know, for all the talk about running backs in this draft, and certainly wide receivers and running backs, really the two quality positions we talked about, the selection of Gaston Green in the number 14 hole is the latest selection of a running back in the first round since Ethan Horton's selection back in 1985. So we're deep, but we waited until the 14th pick.
Well, we were talking about it from the start. We were talking about there not being any franchise running backs, and we talked about all the depth at running back. The fact that it was a lot of middle rounders. That's why we thought some clubs might consider trading down, but I think that's the key here. No franchise guys, but a lot of good, sound, productive backs that can also catch the football as well. We still see Craig Hayward sitting there, who I really believe if Craig Hayward would have had been able to keep that weight at a reasonable level his entire career, I think Craig Hayward could have been a top 5 pick. I think teams now are questioning whether it's going to balloon back up. Is he going to have a nick and miss a week or two of action and then all of a sudden go back to 275, 280? I think the fact that the weight situation is keeping Hayward down, not ability, because Hayward can play with anybody. There's no question about that.
He's still out there, but Anthony Miller locked up at least on the fire on the draft board with Roy Firestone now standing by in Phoenix. Roy?
Thank you, Bob. And I guess the big story here in Phoenix is that Anthony Miller is going home of sorts, nearby home. Of course, you played high school football at Muir High in Pasadena. San Diego is the selection. You're the 4th pick overall. How do you feel?
I feel real excited, and I like the town and everything, and hopefully, you know, I can do well down there.
Of course, Lionel James, the receiver for the Chargers. They have Wes Chandler down there. You think you're going to play a lot in the first year?
I think so. I mean, they drafted me pretty high, so I'm pretty sure they're expecting me to do a lot.
Anthony, I think if there was any hesitation on the part of the scouts, it was the fact that you suffered a knee injury and you suffered in your senior year. Obviously, they didn't feel there were any ill effects from the surgery. There was actually no surgery at all. They didn't cut your knee.
No, they just scoped it, and everything was fine, and it's real healthy. I ran faster than I ever run before.
Even after they phoned you just now, a few moments ago, you still had the feeling that maybe this could have been premature. Your family's right behind you, broke out the champagne. You were a little worried that Brad Muster might go to the Chargers, even after they told you were going to go to the Chargers.
Yeah, but they were saying, well, we're sure about it, but we're still talking about it. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to get up here and look like a fool.
Yeah. Well, it's a great day for you, and I know that it's good to be going back home in the sunshine in San Diego. We want to wish you the best of luck this year.
Thank you.
Okay. All the folks here want to congratulate you, too. That's the scene here in Phoenix. Anthony Miller goes to the San Diego Chargers, and we'll come back with more draft coverage here on ESPN.
I was about to buy a new car, but I thought I'd compare American Dream Lease. Well, for the same price, I leased my car from American Dream Lease, a mobile car phone, and a fax machine for my office.
Anything you can buy, you can lease for less with American Dream Lease, all with our personal commitment to service, an authorized agent of Metrophone.
And I have a little money left over in the budget for this year's vacation. People say you can't buy happiness, but you can lease it at American Dream Lease.
American Dream Lease, we're making dreams come true.
You need a lot of power to do a job like this.
At Laurel Lawnmower, you'll find the equipment you need for a lot size or acreage. Blowers, edgers and trimmers, tractors, hedge clippers, snow throwers, and more.
I depend on Laurel Lawnmower for service.
And I depend on their convenient location and hours that fit my schedule.
See the Larrys at Laurel.
The battle for the Stanley Cup is underway with the divisional playoffs. The action continues tonight, live on ESPN.
The next selection, the 16th overall, belongs to the Miami Dolphins, and recently had a chance to talk with Coach Don Shula, and guess what side of the ball he's looking at?
We have to upgrade defensively. And last year we went for a defensive lineman in the first round, a linebacker in the second round. This year we're thinking possibly corner or safety. We still would like to get the pass rusher. I think everybody would like to have the great pass rusher. So we would have to give a defensive lineman consideration too.
So now the question comes. He's talking about defensive linemen. Is it a reach at the 16th pick to go with Stubbs, who played across town from Miami?
Yes.
Is it a reach to go with Scott Davis, defensive lineman? What do you think, Tom?
I've got the pick down as Michael Dean Perry, and even though he's not the great pass rusher, he's the guy who's going to solidify the line for him. It's not the fridge all over again. This kid is a kid who is going to come in shape. He's going to be ready to play 60 minutes. I think the pick is going to be, and I'll say it before I hear the phone call, Michael Dean Perry.
You implying
you did. No, you did.
The problem with Perry is some say in a 3-4 he's not the nose tackle. In a 4-3 he's fine at a defensive tackle. Does this make sense, Perry?
Well, there's another problem with Perry. The pick is too logical. That's what they need. That's exactly what they need. And he is a legitimate mid to high first-round pick. He's a terrific nose tackle, defensive tackle. When I talked to the guy I know from Miami, I said, it's got to be Perry, right? And he said, no, Clifford Charlton, the linebacker from Florida. So my choice is Clifford Charlton only because Perry makes too much sense, and this is what they told me.
A lot of people had said Clifford Charlton, too, and Shula was saying a couple days ago to some reporters, well, everyone has me picking Clifford Charlton. Why bother to pick? But maybe Miami trades down. We shall see. We know that one team has already chosen one player, the Rams with Gaston Green. They're coming up again in the first round. Howard Balls is with John Robinson of the Rams. Howard?
Well, John, the first running back in the draft, that might have been a little bit of a surprise. A lot of people, there were so many names mentioned over the course of the weeks, but you ended up with your first choice, and that was Gaston Green.
Well, we think he's clearly the best breakaway, best speed back in the draft, and maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. He reminds me, or if you were to compare him, a Tony Dorsett type of player. I think he can be heavily involved in the passing game. We're trying to move towards the passing game with our backs with Jim Everett. We think he can come in and share the job with Charlie White this year. Durability has been one of the question marks about him, but he has no injury. He's a completely healthy player. His durability has been short-term injury. He's 21 years old, will be 22 in August. So he's a very young, very fast, very talented player.
But this isn't going to be a guy that you might project right off the spot who's going to carry the ball 30 times a game.
No, that's as I say, that's not what our intention is, or that's not how we would use him. We think he and Charlie can make a tandem back there, and we would use Gaston in the passing game. And I think Dallas used Tony Dorsett over the years to get the most out of the kinds of skills that Dorsett had. Green, to me, is a similar type of player.
Now, obviously, there was a lot of speculation about Craig Hayward. You had your pick of the guys. How was it a tough decision?
I think it's a very tough decision. I think it, it took us down to the final moments to really decide. But there was some speculation or some anticipation on our part that Green would be gone when he came through. Pretty much, we've seen him here so much and know, I think, so much about him having been at UCLA that the speed, the potential breakaway threat was too much to pass.
So what can we look forward to on your next pick coming up in a couple?
Well, we're going to try the best guy there. I mean, we've said all along we were going to stay where we were and pick the best guys that were there, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thanks, John. We'll get you later in this broadcast.
Okay, thanks.
That's John Robinson, coach of the Rams, and they coming up in another pick. Who knows what it'll be? A wide receiver. You heard Coach Robinson say the best player that's there. We'll hear that a lot today, I'm sure. Back to Chris Berman in New York.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we hear every year. Is this is our 9th straight year televising the NFL draft, and of course we welcome you to our weekend session. First time the draft has been on a Sunday is they go back to the two-day procedure that they did prior to 1983. The top rounds will be today. The rest will be tomorrow. Now, as far as Miami goes, it's not as if they haven't tried to draft defensively lately. Last year they went one Boza, defensive lineman from BC, and Rick Graff, the linebacker from Wisconsin, in their blue-chip picks. In '86, the Dolphins picked John Offerdahl, who's turned out to be a tremendous player for them with their second-round selection. They didn't have a 1 then. In '85, they didn't have a 1 or a 2. In '84, they picked Jay Brophy, linebacker from Miami. So they've tried it, and this could be another year's in where maybe, they haven't got the standout blue chipper, and it doesn't look like there are any there right now.
Oh, I think Perry's a blue chipper.
But you said it's too logical.
It's too logical. It would be a great pick for them because they need gut pressure. Now they have Boza who can put on a little bit of a rush. They have linebackers that maybe can do a little blitzing. You can get outside pressure, but if you can get that gut pressure, then you're really somewhere. And I think that's what this kid will give them.
It's interesting to note that in the first 15 picks, the offense only leads 8-7. And why we say that is that we thought coming in, and Paul, you thought so, and Tommy too, that half of the picks in the first round, of course, we still have some to go, would be either backs or wide receivers.
No, it's 9-7 if Miami takes defense. I gave you that note. it's 9.
Well, listen, say what you mean then on these things. See, now
I made it too complicated.
I finally sit down here with Zim after these years, and he's okay. I can see the way he operates. Make the TV guys look bad. Never mind. So the Dolphins are up next, and then the New England Patriots. So two teams in the AFC East, which is becoming an intriguing division, a division that anybody can win. Of course, Buffalo Bills do not have a first-round pick. Neither do the Indianapolis Colts. Colts don't have a first or a second. The Bills have a second, but no first. There is word that they might like to move into the first round. So this a place where Miami and New England have a shot, where Indianapolis and Buffalo do not. However, the question is, are these picks late in the first round of this draft equivalent to second rounds of other drafts? What do you think?
Oh, no. You're not going to get a Lorenzo White or a Brad Muster. You're not going to get people like that in the second round of another draft.
Why would Miami
I think
go
this
with
is a good draft.
Why wouldn't they? Couldn't he? He catches the ball great for a big guy. Why wouldn't that work?
He'd be a very good pick for them. He's a good player, but he's got an ankle. He's scaring people because he didn't take part in the workouts, and they're asking questions about him. And when you're drafting, especially when you're a team that's below 500 and you're drafting in the first round, you don't want to take chances.
It just makes sense to me, but then again, that's another one that I think they could change their offense a little bit for Muster. We have about only a minute and a half left for the Dolphins. to make a selection.
They must be trying to make a trade if they're taking this long.
Maybe to go down, as there was word that they did not like the Charlton that everyone had given to them in print. And maybe they will be. We haven't had a trade yet today.
No.
We're due. It's the due theory.
Yeah. How about Ironhead for him? No. 2 iron.
No, I don't. I don't think so. Let's see. The Dolphins are filling in the card. And there it goes. So Miami, there it is. I have in my hand the envelope. And so the Dolphins and the crowd getting edgy here. They say the Dolphins are taking too much time. But they have less than a minute to go. And then New England will be up, followed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers, you certainly think, would go a running back.
Steelers, they like Stevens very much, the big back from Northwest.
But he may not be there because New England may beat him to it. Here's Miami's.
Miami's selection in the first round is Eric Kummerow, defensive end, Ohio State.
It's an interesting choice. He's a tweener.
New England is up.
Well,
it's an interesting choice. He's a tweener. He's a big linebacker who could play down. He's about a 250-pound, 6'5", 6'6" linebacker that everybody said was an interesting player. That's the best I heard about him. Interesting.
Well, an interesting selection by the Dolphins, who go with Kummerow. They are, I guess, are projecting him as the down lineman from Ohio State. And so Miami does go defense. They did go for need, as Coach Shula said. Now they've drafted the big kid who played linebacker at Ohio State, Eric Kummerow. They can just use as much help as possible. Let's face it, the Dolphins ranked what overall on defense last year? 26, I believe.
You know, Tommy, TJ is new to this draft game. You don't go with logic in this business.
It just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen.
He could turn out to be a nice pro for them.
Who, Tommy?
That's right. Why didn't they draft you? So now New England is up. And I think they might look, although they've drafted backs, Dupard with the #1 selection a couple of years ago. I think John Stevens, they might beat Pittsburgh to Stevens.
No, let's save him for Pittsburgh. I need a win.
John
I need a win.
Brad Muster, the running back. Certainly, I think it's going to be a running back. And Z talks about the questions on Muster's leg, but somebody's got to take a chance on the kid, because I think he's not only too good a player, but he's one of those guys that's going to help you off the field as well.
That is a good point. And you talk about some teams weren't that concerned about it. It's not so much his leg. They say it's an ankle injury that they weren't that concerned with. Some were.
I'm looking at my New England notes. Dick Steinberg said not Muster. So when I talked to him, he said not Muster. I projected Lorenzo White for him. It just seems too logical. I mean, White, that so many people call the best running back, I can't see him lasting much longer.
Well, Lorenzo White is a guy that they can give the ball to 35 times a game. There is no question about that.
They've done it sometimes, too.
They've done it 4 years. Maybe Lorenzo White goes Pittsburgh. Remember George Perlis coached him in college. There's a Pittsburgh connection, perhaps.
Let's give Lorenzo to New England and Stevens to Pittsburgh. How about that?
I'm going to look at my New England notes if I can find them right here. I'm going to see what's... well, I have about 18 players written down, so I guess it's going to take me a while to sift through this. However, I'm going to go with Stevens. Maybe Aaron Cox, wide receiver. Let's go over to Bobby and Mel.
Alert the media, okay? 12 and a half minutes to go. Waiting on the selection of New England, the team that's got more picks in this draft, 15 than any other team. The question about Eric Kummerow, where will he play? Now, early in the draft process, we look at a guy like him at 240 pounds. Now you say he's up to 260, which may answer the question, where's he going to play, which was your big question about it.
Well, initially, I looked at Kummerow as a tweener, a guy you didn't know if he was strong enough or was going to get big enough to play defensive end, and you didn't know if he was athletic or quick enough to be an outside linebacker. He's up to 262 now. You look at him, they feel it's at the 6'7" frame you're talking about. He had Graff and Bosa. Of course, he has Offerdahl. He's going to move Turner inside, maybe to a nose tackle spot. So I think in the long run, what he's trying to do is get the tall guys who can rush that passer, really disrupt the quarterback to a certain extent, because all these kids, you're talking about Graff and Bosa, and now Kummerow had those long arms, and of course Kummerow has that frame to carry probably about 280. I think it was a reach. I think Kummerow should have been a second-round choice. I really do. I still think he won't be a dominant player, and I still think to a certain extent he fits into that tweener category, because when you're talking about projecting that he can carry 280, and you look at his college career as a guy, he had a decent career, but I don't think he was worthy of this high a choice. I think this is another major reach. I personally would have gone against the grain a little bit, but I would have taken Craig Hayward for the simple reason that in 3rd and 2, Miami can be in a shotgun. I'm serious. And you're talking about a team that might drive up to the 45-yard line, and all of a sudden they're in that shotgun, and they throw an incomplete pass, and Roby comes out to punt. Hayward keeps those drives alive for you. So, but, you know, Kumaro, I can see the reason why they took Kumaro, forcing that defensive line pick with a guy who didn't play the position in college.
And it's the first, not off the wall, but off the board prediction from your top 40. The first prediction not among your top 40. So Dolphins need defensive help. They've gone defense for the last 5 years in round one. We're standing by. Hey, Thurman Thomas might be drafted shortly. We'll see.
It's been said that form should always follow function. But on rare occasions, the function is already so highly advanced that the form is free to pursue absolute beauty. Introducing the Mercedes-Benz 300CE Coupe.
Every year in Zermatt, people fall for the Alpine Splendor and drop some cash at some of the best stores in Switzerland. Which is okay if you have Visa Gold, because we'll not only help you get a doctor or lawyer for whatever you need, we'll deliver emergency cash and a new Visa Gold to wherever you are. And if you needed a card and cash from American Express in Zermatt, you'd have to go to Lausanne, 100 miles away. Visa Gold, it's everywhere you want to be.
Well, as you can imagine, this is a very difficult afternoon for the players that have not been selected yet. It doesn't get any easier as the day wears on. We're sitting here in the apartment of Thurman Thomas in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Thurman, I have to ask you, is it seemed like a little bit of the pressure was released once Gaston Green was selected. Is that accurate, or were you disappointed?
Oh, I thought a lot of running backs would be taken before Gaston Green was taken by the Rams at the 14th pick. I thought Lorenzo White and Craig Hayward might be gone by now, so... but, you know, there's still a lot of good running backs out there.
Are you still thinking that you'll go in the first round?
Yes, I still think and feel that I will go in the first round.
How hard is it for you to be sitting here going through this?
Oh, it's real hard. I mean, you can see all the players that you played against going by the name as being called, and when you talk to them, they tell you what type of player you are, and your name is not called. So, in a way, it's really kind of frustrating, but, you know, I'm just have to sit back and wait my time.
But really, you're more surprised than anything that not more running backs have gone so far. Yeah. Thurman's mother, Ann, traveled 10 hours in a car to get here to spend this afternoon with your son. It doesn't look like you're having a whole lot of fun yet. Is that?
No, I'm not having a whole lot of fun. This is just like a game. I have a nervous stomach. I have headaches. This is worse.
All right, we're ready to call the team trainer and get him in here to give some back rubs, and we're going to go back to New York right now. Chris?
All right, Andrea and Thurman, thank you very much. New England didn't take long. They probably can't believe that Stevens and Muster are still up there. They had a feeling that Cox would still be there. Now we have a little conferral on the card, but I'm just covering my...
That's right.
No, I don't think Dick Steinberg thought that both Stevens and Muster would still be available. Maybe one of those two. And so I know that Randall McDaniel is a guy that New England likes also. That's a guard, but I'm not saying he's going to be that selection.
Now, there's a guy who's going to be a fine NFL player for some
New
years.
England selects John Stevens, running back, Northwest Louisiana State.
You got that one, Boomer?
Pittsburgh is up.
Covered our ground here. So John Stevens, New England needs to, as we all know, pep up their running game. Now they hope Craig James comes back from the surgery. They had a Reggie Ducard who started to look good last year. Now late in the year they started to run the ball better because they drafted Bruce Armstrong and Danny Villa, two guys on the offensive line that played very well for them. But New England needs to run the ball better, and with John Stevens, a sculptured guy, a man that played at Northwestern State, you say where? That's in Louisiana, but this is a place that produced Joe Delaney, a guy that showed in the postseason, Zim and Tommy, that he can handle the big level competition. As we look at Stevens, I don't think there was a question, right with you guys, that even though he played at a smaller school, that he could play big time.
He's 230 and he runs a 4.41.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's right.
Better than I can do.
That's right.
Yes. I had a 4.4 from the 10. But we were going to look at Stevens, but trust me, New England has looked at him plenty, and they like the way he can fit in. He can catch the ball, but he's a bigger back than the guys that they have.
Well, I think that's the key thing. We knew he was looking for, that they were looking for the big back. We talked here about Muster. This guy Stevens is, like you say, what, 225, 30 pounds or so, and he runs a 4.440.
What does this do to Craig James? I guess he's trade bait now.
Maybe not.
They got mostly Tatafu, and they got Berman from last year. How many fullbacks can you carry?
You can never have enough pitching. Just remember that. And so now what did we say? We said Stevens might go to New England. I think Pittsburgh has to go Lorenzo White. I think that's the way they have to look. Agree?
I would think so, unless they want the big back and they take the hometown product, Ironhead.
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. But what do we know? That's why we're coming back right after this timeout as the first round continues here at the Marriott Marquis in New York. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 18th overall.
The S-Class. The engineering flagships of Mercedes-Benz. And something more. Automobiles that evoke memories of a day long past. And a car so exotic that it turned a young boy's head. A heritage of legendary automobiles that have inspired dreams. Automobiles that have made the three-pointed star a universal symbol of engineering excellence. The Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Nothing less than the best of every big Mercedes there ever was.
We are awaiting the choice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have over 10 minutes to make their selection, but John Stevens is on his way to New England. A guy that you might not normally look when you first look at the state of Louisiana, but at closer inspection, there was no question this guy can play. Louisiana, the Bayou State where good times in football are time-honored traditions. The Saints step to the Benson Boogie, while in Baton Rouge, LSU steps on to sold-out Tiger Stadium. The town of Natchitoches lies 160 miles northwest of Baton Rouge, but in reality, they're worlds apart. Natchitoches is known to few outside Louisiana, the exceptions being NFL scouts. They come to see Northwestern State's John Stevens, whose power and speed should play well in the NFL.
Really, John's going to be a better pro than he was here at Northwestern, but he's a great athlete, the best athlete I've ever been associated with, and you know, I think what he does in the pros will justify the high draft choice that he's going to become. I think, you know, here at Northwestern, he's had a real good career. He broke Joe Delaney's records, but I don't think he achieved nearly what he's capable of achieving in a pro, say on a pro level in a pro system.
Northwestern State alumni include Dolphins All-Pro Mark Duper, Louisiana native Bobby Hebert, who led the Saints to their first playoff berth in '87, and the late Joe Delaney, forever remembered by his school. John Stevens knows he's in select company.
I feel that it's an honor that I'm being, you know, recognized like that. I feel that, you know, I did a lot of great things for Northwestern. I feel that Northwestern did a lot of great things for me. But it's just an honor bestowed upon me to be looked upon that high.
On his way to stardom at Northwestern, John Stevens broke every rushing record of Joe Delaney's. But Stevens wasn't always a star. In fact, he wasn't always a running back.
He was really a better linebacker than running back, probably. But so he's a hard-nosed kid. He's never really been a prima donna as such coming up through high school where he was a stud running back. But he had to learn to block. He had to do all the... he had to be in the trenches, so to speak, and I think that's a big asset for him. He's also a real good receiver. You know, he caught over 60 passes for us in 4 years, and coming from a tailback position, it's hard to get the ball, you know, into or get a guy downfield very far to catch passes. But he was one of our best receivers.
When we came in as freshmen, they have time trials or whatever you may call them. And I ran and I did all the events, and I had broken just about or a majority of all the freshman times. And I knew then I was ahead of my class. I was out in front of the people that previously came in.
John never played at Northwestern State in front of more than 15,000 fans, while in Baton Rouge, 75,000 plus in national TV audiences watched fellow All-American Wendell Davis grab the passes and grab the headlines.
You get a different feeling every time you play a game. You think about it. You read the paper the next morning that says LSU played in front of 58,000 or Tulane or whatever, and you have to wonder, you know, sometimes what would I have done in those situations.
John Stevens, he could have gone to LSU. If he had gone to LSU, he'd played behind Dalton Hilliard and the kid that's with the Detroit Lions, and probably by his third year there would have been a starter. Here he came in, he started as a freshman. His best year was his sophomore year, just like Bobby Hebert's best year was his sophomore year. And had they not had those great sophomore years, or if they'd have gone to a major school where they were still in a backup role as a sophomore and then got their injuries or whatever that affected them later on in their career, they may not have ever had the opportunities they've had now.
As John Stevens enters the NFL, he has no visions of grandeur, and his personal goals are secondary to those of the teams.
I'm all for winning and whatever it takes to win, whether it's playing fullback or tailback. That's what I'm going to do. In the near future, I'm going to practice hard. I'm going to work out hard. I'm going to train to be the best that I can be. And hopefully one day, I'm going to make one football team in the NFL a hell of a football player.
John Stevens going from Louisiana here, the Steelers pick.
Jones, defensive end, Eastern Kentucky.
And so, like we said, Lorenzo Aaron Jones going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, the Steelers feeling that with Ernest Jackson and...
now we're tap dancing. Admit that we're all shocked.
We're wrong.
Okay. I mean, we're all shocked by this pick. Let's face it. It's our first, well, it's our second shocker after Kumaro.
They've got guys on the defensive line that can play the run. They don't have a pass rusher, do they?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've been drafting pass rushers since you know, 1910. I mean, where are these guys that they've drafted? I mean, Darrell Sims is in Cleveland. I mean, you know, these people are scattered all over the place. Keith Gary, you know, hasn't been heard from. I mean, they keep drafting him. Well, Willis is okay, but they keep drafting him. Now they got another. Well, I hope he can rush the passer. But they have a shot at real quality running backs. I mean, their offense is going down the drain. Their defense is playing well. Tony Dungy's a great coach. I don't know. I'm scratching my head over this one. You know, he's a good player. I just hope he comes through for him. My son's a Steelers fan.
Oh, that makes the pick okay. I know that Cleveland in the same division like Aaron Jones. Tommy, Joe Green's a defensive line coach. Think he might be able to help here?
They talk about this kid having a lack of upper body strength, lack of technique work, which it probably can be attributed to the fact that he's gone to a smaller school. Again, I question the choice. I just question Joe, even though Joe Green is the coach. I mean, Joe was known for a little bit of upper body strength.
Yes, he was. I know one thing about Aaron Jones, and this is late information, that they just this week, there was some question about a disc problem in his back. Obviously, the Steelers either don't think much of that news or are going to go full speed and damn the torpedoes and go ahead anyway.
In his defense, I heard, I mean, he was one of the names that you hear a lot of right in pre-draft week. 2 weeks ago, all you heard was Gaston Green. That was the name you heard. You heard Muster. Then all of a sudden you didn't hear him so much. But this kid's name, you heard a lot of people mentioning. So he's had good workouts and his stock has really risen in the draft.
And so once again, we wait on the running backs. And guys like Lorenzo White and Thurman Thomas are there, and Minnesota's next, and they're not going to pick a running back. How about Randall McDaniel, guard, Arizona State to Minnesota? We'll find out in a minute.
I'm not panicking yet, but him is our major weapon for this meeting, and I don't see him.
I spoke to him last night. He said he'll meet us there.
What, is he taking a different flight?
He's not flying, he's driving.
He is driving the 300 miles.
Just bought a 190 class Mercedes. Says he's never driven anything like it.
That's great, but why would he want to do all that driving when he doesn't have to?
I guess that's the whole point.
You can hear the understandable pride when modern brewers talk about the time they spend brewing their beers, or the time they spend lagering them. True, this reflects effort and care. But for Budweiser, some things take even more time. Like waiting for a big beechwood tree to grow from a small beechwood tree. For all the years past, and the years to come, this is the kind of time and the kind of care that go into your beer. Beechwood aged Budweiser.
I'm even jazzier in my BVDs. Hey, I drive even faster in my BVDs.
I'm more intimidating in my BVDs.
BVD brand underwear. Whatever you do, that extra comfort helps you do it better.
I became a TV heartthrob in my BVDs.
America, do it better. Do it in your BVDs.
At my age, I've done just about everything in my BVDs.
ESPN's coverage of the 1988 NFL Draft is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. By Bud Light, everything else is just a light. And by Centel, the company where people connect.
We are waiting to see what Minnesota does with the 19th selection in the first round. Welcome back to our live and continuous coverage of the National Football League Draft. About 10.5 minutes to go for the Vikings. Let's step back for a second. Look at Aaron Jones, the selection for the 4th time in this decade. Steelers have used the #1 pick for a defensive lineman as Aaron Jones follows in the footsteps of Keith Gary, Darrell Sims, and, of course, Gabe Rivera, who was tragically paralyzed. Out of Eastern Kentucky, Aaron Jones started at defensive tackle for 3 years in the 5'2". Possibly can carry a little bit more weight than about 250. He was the co-MVP defensively of the Ohio Valley Conference. This is the guy, Mel, who can get all over the playing field.
Great athlete. That's the key here. And the fact that, Zim mentioned the workouts, but he also had the last 3 games of the year was one of the more dominant outside pass rushers in the country. You see that pass rush ability. Gave him a 4.9 for that. Strength of 4.3, although lately his workouts as far as strength have been outstanding. 28 reps at 225 is phenomenal. Quickness, excellent. He's been running in the 4.7s. Has to improve against the run a little bit, but as a pass rusher, this kid can dominate.
You look at what the Steelers have done with their draft. When they were the dominant team in pro football through the stretch when they had the 4 Super Bowl championships, they had 11 #1 selections in one stretch. 7 of those 11 went to the Pro Bowl. And since then, since Pittsburgh has not been the dominant playoff team, they have not done well at all. In fact, you take a look at the 1980s, of their first 2-round selections, they've gotten only 1 Pro Bowl player in this decade.
Well, the thing about the selection, when you look at it, I think the fact that New England took Stevens, I think, affected this choice, because now Pittsburgh went Jones, which affected the Cleveland Browns, who obviously thought that Jones would be a great choice at that point. But when you look at the board right now, you still see Randall McDaniel. You still see Anthony Newman. There's a lot of good football players still on the board at this point. We're near the end of the first round. So you talked about Aaron Jones being a fast riser. Terry Williams from Bethune-Cookman's another kid to keep an eye on, because as a cornerback, there's a lot of clubs in the NFL liked him ahead of Dixon as the #1 cornerback in this draft. And a lot of people will hear Terry Williams' name mentioned at some point in this late first, early second round and say, who's he? But Terry Williams can be an all-pro player within 2 years.
We've seen some reaches. Maybe the Raiders' second selection of Terry McDaniel, minor reach. Eric Kummerow of Ohio State selected by Miami. Your top 40's behind us. You had him rated 126, which means he'd be way over there if the board continued over there. So we'll see what happens out in the hallway. Minnesota is up. They have used the entire pro personnel process of building this team. Jerry Burns, what is he looking at, the needs of his team, looking at the draft?
I think we need some secondary help, number one. Number two, we're looking for a defensive line play. Defensive linemen are tough to get, particularly players that have the ability to play in the National Football League. And then number three, we'll be looking down the line at some offensive line help.
So, Jerry Burns, what do they need in that defensive line help? Certainly, who are they going for?
I think the best player on the board right now is Randall McDaniel. I really do. I think when you look at athletic ability, he's in the top 5. Tremendous vertical jump, outstanding pulling speed to get outside for Darren Nelson and DJ Dozier. I would take, at this point, Randall McDaniel.
And the Rams, certainly. There is Randall McDaniel at number 13, just behind is the highest player on the top 40 with the hit parade. With the bullet right now, not yet selected. So that's where we stand with the board. Top 40 players. We've had a couple of minor reaches, one big-time reach, and about 7 minutes to go on Minnesota's pick. And the Rams get their second pick in this first round, midway through the first round of the NFL draft. We'll be back to New York after this.
You can't beat the South Jersey locations or the facilities. Plus, Center City and Atlantic City are real close by.
Actually, I'm just staying here a short time in a Corman suite. But if I'm ever transferred up here permanently, I get a Corman apartment. My wife would flip.
Corman suite accommodations compared to a hotel, it's no contest.
I have a great apartment that I'm very proud of. And it's probably in the best spot in New Jersey.
I'd say Corman really works for me.
For the best protection under the sun. Stop at Arnold Safe and Lock Company in Pennsauken. Their qualified locksmiths will show you how to protect your valuables. Once you see their showroom of home, office, and computer safes, you'll realize you don't have to shop anywhere else, especially since Arnold's offers service and installation on everything they sell. The locksmiths at Arnold's want to educate you to be sure you pick the right safe or lock. What better protection under the sun could you ask for?
Is in May. To the ice, where hockey's hottest teams face off for the coveted Stanley Cup. To Paris, where the world's best players battle in the French Open. To the Indianapolis 500 time trials. To Churchill Downs on Derby Day for all the races leading up to the Run for the Roses. To Jack Nicklaus's hometown for the PGA Memorial. And to the 50-yard indoor war. Arena football. All in May on ESPN.
Just moments ago here in New York, the Marriott Marquis, the Vikings made their selection. This is what happened.
Minnesota has selected Randall McDaniel, guard, Arizona State. Los Angeles Rams are up on a choice from Indianapolis.
All right, another notch in your belt, Mel. Randall McDaniel out of Arizona State, who was, as we showed you, the top unselected player on the board. Let's take a look at a guy when he came out of high school, a real skinny guy, played tight end, and has transformed himself into a pulling guard with great technique, great attitude. They tell the story, what, he can, with full pads, do a 360 dunk of a basketball?
He's a phenomenal athlete. You can see him on the footage here, how he can just blow people off the ball. He can pull, and look at him there. Now, that's a functional strength. It's not weight room strength. He uses his ability on the field. You see that quickness? Outstanding. Gave him a perfect grade there, 5.0. Equally good run and pass blocker. Strength, even though he doesn't have that weight room strength, he utilizes all his tools on the field. There are a lot of clubs in the NFL that felt like if the Arizona State Sun Devils would have used him as a defensive end because of his athletic ability, he could have been one of the first 2 or 3 players selected in this draft. But as an offensive guard, he slid down a little bit. Tackles go a little higher, as we know. They're a little more valuable. But Randall McDaniel is a blue-chip athlete, and at this point, a value-type selection.
Clock is running on the Rams. Seattle would have selected next, but they took Brian Bosworth last year in the supplemental draft. That was their first-round pick. So it's the Rams with a pick through Indy, then Houston and Cleveland. Now we start to see the dominoes falling. Quick projection the next 3.
Rams a tough one to gauge. I thought Craig Hayward would fit in perfectly. He's still there. Aaron Cox is the wide receiver that they would really need at this point. Danny Stubbs is a pass rusher. This is a team that has a lot of needs, and I think Danny Stubbs, Aaron and Cox, and of course, I still say Hayward's there. But I look at Houston. Don't be surprised. Terry Williams is an outstanding cornerback from Bethune-Cookman. Cleveland, now maybe a linebacker. I like Freddie Strickland at that point, even though he moves outside, leave Junkin inside. Freddie Strickland is a blue-chip athlete, and at that outside linebacker position could be a pretty good choice for the Cleveland Browns.
All right, so the clock running on the Rams, though. Pick number 20. 21 hole, and first time around, Chris, of course, the Rams going for the hometown selection of Gaston Green.
So they got their running back, Bobby and Mel, the first time. Now they certainly need pass rushers. They might go with Aaron Cox, wide receiver, Arizona State, and you know, we've had our first Arizona State player go with McDaniel. Could be 5 of them in the first 2 rounds. Maybe it's Cox. Real quick, Joe Theismann's back with us. You like McDaniel and Minnesota's scheme of offense?
I think so, Chris. I think he fits into their type of athletes. They do a lot of movement with their people up front. They require them to be good athletes. He fits right into what you would expect for a Minnesota Viking offensive lineman. I agree with you, though, as far as the next pick goes. I think, considering the fact that Ernie Zampese now is the offensive coordinator at the Rams, I'd have to say that they want to beef up that aspect of it, with Ron Brown going on to pursue his career in track and want to become the world's fastest man instead of the NFL's fastest man. I think they'll go wide receiver next. I really think that that's an area that they'll go into.
If that's the case, Cox would seem to be that guy, 5'9", maybe not the largest in the world, but certainly a solid choice. Zim, what are your thoughts on the Rams?
Wendell Davis from LSU or Aaron Cox. Just to differ with you, I'll say Wendell Davis.
Okay. Tommy?
Well, I had written down here Wendell Davis from LSU. It says receiver, 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 but I didn't know that Aaron Cox would be left by now.
And the suspense is killing us. Here it is.
Rams on a choice from Indianapolis. Select Aaron Cox, wide receiver, Arizona State. Houston is up.
Well, sometimes you get him right. And Aaron Cox is a bona fide first-round player. He's an accomplished receiver. You know what you're getting with him. It's not something as if you say, well, gee, he was injured some. No, he plays the full seasons. And so 2 back-to-back Sun Devils go in the first round. McDaniel to Minnesota, and now Aaron Cox, wide receiver, goes to the Rams. So Jim Everett will have somebody to throw to, that is for sure. Aaron Cox at 5'9", can do some running, and he will just fit in as they try and develop Everett, Joe, more and more.
Well, not only that, Chris, don't forget, Ron Brown was only 5'9". Right. I mean, they haven't necessarily taken a guy who's much smaller than what they've had before. But again, it sort of gives you an idea of the direction that the Rams want to go in. They're going to be a more aggressive offensive team. They're not going to run the ball 35, 40 times. They don't want to do that. They want to try and get some quick points on the board. A guy like Aaron Cox is going to help them.
He averaged almost 20 yards of reception at Tempe. And that just tells you that's a home run ball. Right. Well, sorry, Jim, I took Cox, you know.
I mean, it seems, you know, a lot of these teams, like Miami, it seems, has been trying to draft defense forever, and their defense stays the same. The Rams, it seems, have been trying to get big play offensive people forever, and their offense stays the same. I mean, I don't know. There just seems to be something wrong when they try and plug in the right part into the wrong box.
Well, Robinson certainly will be able to run the ball better. This kid, what he's going to do is help you stretch the football field. He's going to make people think about the pass, and as Joe said, now you're not going to see backs carrying the ball 30, 35 times a game for him. You'll see him going for the home run ball.
Well, that's if Zampese has his way.
Right? Well, this is the point I wanted to bring up. Zim mentioned the fact that, okay, you see Miami drafting defense, they've stayed the same. You see the Rams drafting offense, they've stayed the same. What you see as a change for the Rams, though, is the coordination of it. John Robinson will still definitely be in charge, but I think he wants to turn a little bit more over to Ernie Zampese and give him we're going to see a little bit more of that San Diego type of offense.
All right, so Aaron Cox, the 5th wide receiver that goes in the first round, which ties a record. We're just hearing the announcement from 73. 5 wide receivers. Could there be a 6th? We shall see. The next choice, Houston, who went wide receiver with Jeffries last year. That didn't work. They won't go wide receiver. But do they? Well, the Oilers can go a lot of directions, and we'll be back to see what they do in just a moment.
Today, you need an insurance company that looks out for you year after year. A company with experience, measured in centuries instead of years. A company with a firm financial footing. You need the Hartford, the insurance people of ITT. When you need us most, we're at our best. That's the Hartford difference.
My husband, Ted, used to be the world's worst barbecuer until we got this charbroil gas grill. Now, he's a regular barbecue genius. You see, a charbroil has this flare fighter system that helps him control his habit of burning expensive meat. But the real secret is these charcoal briquettes. Only charbroil gas grills have them. They give everything Ted cooks a real charcoal taste. Yep, real charcoal taste. And 3 nights a week out of the kitchen, he's not the only genius in this family.
The Houston Oilers began the week with a pair of first-round selections, but of course they traded their first one away to the Raiders, so now they're back drafting where they're supposed to. And the Oilers are up next with the 21st overall selection. Pete Axthelm has been wondering if there's a wedding nearby, because when the Oilers, you have to think of these things. Ax?
Chris, this is the time of year, you know, it's the off season. I think it's time for all of us on game day to start mending some fences that we may have broken over the season. And one way to do it, I'd like to point out that whatever he happens to do at wedding receptions in Buffalo, Lad Herzeg has turned out to be an absolutely first-rate drafter. The Oilers have become good. They're absolutely stocked with a lot of number ones. He gets them. Jerry Glanville makes them really tough, and they go out and play. In fact, the role reversals that happen in this sport are so strange. We used to look for the Raiders to get players like this. Now the Raiders are taking All-American boys like Tim Brown, and it's the Oilers are taking guys who, if they could skate, would probably be playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Quite a change, and this one's for you, Lad, and who knows? You may be next, Sam White. Back to you, Chris.
Axe, you can always count on the Axe with some observations. Listen, they all have to wear the black shirts if they get drafted by the Oilers, or what?
Sooner or later.
Sooner or later. All right, and so we'll get back to you. Of course, you're in Buddy's den there, as Buddy may go defensively, but that's the Eagles, and that's another story. So the Houston Oilers are up. They go Jeffries last year, wide receiver. They don't look to go back there. They went Highsmith last year. They got Rozier. Could they? I mean, I still hear, Paul, maybe they're looking at another back, and with these guys available, do they do that even with Highsmith and Rozier?
Well, the back that interests them is Muster. They're not interested in Lorenzo White because they've got a Lorenzo White clone in their backfield, Mike Rozier. Muster interests them because he could go into the U-back spot if they go 2 tight ends. And Charlton is their highest-rated linebacker right now. I know they would like to get Spielman at some time. They figure maybe they can get him in the 2nd round. So I'd say Charlton or Muster.
I'm going to agree with you on Charlton because it just makes sense that the Oilers can do some work defensively. Houston is a team that's on the move, as Axe mentioned, Tommy, a team that, with a couple of key picks, could really get not only from a playoff team into maybe a real Super Bowl contender, certainly out of the AFC.
I think they can certainly compete now. They have a lot of tools offensively, and although I don't know exactly who they're going to get, I think they're going to look for defensive help and probably at the linebacker position. Charlton would certainly be a good pick for them.
The Oilers, of course, are going to be Team ESPN this year, as they're on our Sunday night telecast twice. So Joe, you'll be watching them, and they've already got the Sean Jones, some help at defensive end. Does the linebacker make sense, or do you still beef up the running game?
I still think you got to beef up the running game. You got to protect Warren Moon. They've got the great wide receivers. They established that last year. They can get into the playoffs. I think Jerry took that football team maybe even a little further than he thought they might go with the revamping that he's done. But defensively, you see Jerry Glanville, and he's a tough, hard-nosed fighter type of a coach. He's going to want to get somebody going on the defensive side and continue to mix it up. My number 1 selection would probably be Brad Muster, though. I think they want to help out those halfbacks in the backfield. Really takes a lot of pressure off a quarterback when you can run the football.
As we still see those backs sit there, Muster and Lorenzo White, and of course, we're with Thurman Thomas as he agonizes, as a lot of names on the running back board staying up there a little longer than you might have thought. We're waiting for that run on backs. So when will it begin? The Oilers have their first selection coming up, and we'll be back to New York in just a moment.
Not just another credit card. It's the exciting new Citibank NFL Visa card that's different from any credit card you've ever carried or seen. It says football is your sport and shows the world your favorite NFL team. For a free 6-month membership, call 1-800-NFL-VISA. Every time you use your card, you earn points you can redeem for free NFL Pro Line gear. And as an NFL Visa card member, you're automatically entered in our Super Bowl 23 sweepstakes. Call 1-800-NFL-VISA and join the team.
You give it your best, so we give you ours, and things keep looking better all the time. Lose sight great color from the start. Lose sight when it's coming from the heart. It's the science and the art of painting.
Give it your best. Give it Lucite.
The Monte Carlo Open, you'll be able to see 12 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. And Wilfred Solly, what happens very often is that the clay court season in Europe is determined by what happens here in Monte Carlo.
Very important tournament. It is the start. We have seen some upsets this week, and of course Ivan Lendl, the #1 player in the world, he had problems. That he's going to be there, and of course either Terry Talon, Martin Haiti. That's an exciting one, and it should be a great afternoon.
It may be a good indication for you as to just how well Ivan Lendl is going to play for the rest of this portion of the year. Join us tonight.